Picture this. You are standing on a pier in the middle of a July night in the year 2025. The air is warm, the water is black, and for the first time in your life, the stars feel like they are looking back. You think you are alone, but 35 million kilometers above your head, a piece of the deep dark has just woken up. Let me start with something that should terrify every astronomer on Earth. On July 14th, 2025, the Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System, which we will call 3I Atlas, spotted something that didn't just break the laws of physics. It seemed to find them a bit quaint. Unfortunate timing for the official report to be leaked during a holiday weekend. Those two words, unfortunate timing, are doing a lot of work right now. Dr. Avi Loeb at Harvard University was among the first to receive the telemetry data. He noted that the object, 3I Atlas, was traveling at 60 kilometers per second. That is not the speed of a rock falling into a gravity well. That is the speed of an intent. By August 2nd, 2025, the European Space Agency confirmed that the object had undergone a non-gravitational acceleration. In plain English, it sped up when it should have slowed down. It didn't outgas like a comet. It didn't crumble. It just decided to be somewhere else. Now, you could argue that we are simply seeing a natural phenomenon we don't yet understand. But here is the first impossibility. If you look at the radar cross-section gathered on September 9th, 2025, the object is perfectly cylindrical, but its surface reflects 0% of the radio waves sent toward it. It is a hole in the sky. Second, the object is emitting a low-frequency hum at exactly 14.2 megahertz. That is the hydrogen line. It is the universal hailing frequency. It is like finding a lighthouse in the middle of the Pacific that only flashes in Morse code. Third, the trajectory is locked. It isn't orbiting the sun, it is orbiting us. But what if we are looking at this all wrong? What if 3I Atlas isn't a ship at all? What if it is a sensor? Imagine you are a scientist studying a colony of ants. You don't walk into the nest. You place a glass slide over the entrance and wait for the sun to hit it. We might be the ants, and July 2025 was simply the day the slide was placed. Let me back up. There is a story buried in the cuneiform tablets of ancient Sumer, written 5,000 years ago. They spoke of a guest star that stayed for a generation, a star that didn't twinkle, but pulsed like a heart. They called it the Watcher of the Horizon. They believed that whenever the Watcher appeared, the great cycle of the ages was about to reset. We laughed at those myths for centuries. We called them poetic observations of Venus or Jupiter. But those planets don't pulse at 14.2 megahertz. Those planets don't arrive on a Tuesday in July and change their velocity without an engine. You might think we are the peak of intelligence on this planet, but here is why you are wrong. We have only had radio telescopes for less than 100 years. In the timeline of the universe, that is the duration of a single sneeze. We are just now beginning to hear the noise that has been filling the room for billions of years. It makes you feel small, doesn't it? As you lie there, listening to the sound of your own breathing, consider that the atoms in your lungs are the same atoms. 3I Atlas is currently scanning from the vacuum. If you enjoy these deep explorations in space, consider subscribing or hitting the like button. It really helps the channel grow and allows me to make content like this. But here is where it gets dark. The telemetry from October 12th, 2025 shows that 3I Atlas is no longer just observing. It has begun to emit a secondary signal directed not at Earth, but at the dark side of the Moon. We may already be part of the experiment, but that was only one theory. There is another, one buried even deeper in time. Let's go further. Now, you might be tempted to find comfort in the distance. 35 million kilometers sounds like a safety net. But in the language of the cosmos, that is a whisper's breadth. Let me tell you about something that keeps the engineers at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory awake in the small hours of the morning. On November 4th, 2025, a synchronized array of telescopes noticed that 3I Atlas began to change its color. It shifted from a matte black to a shimmering, iridescent violet. Dr. Jacqueline McClary at Northeastern University published a paper 3 weeks later, suggesting that this wasn't a chemical change. It was a thermal one. The object was shedding heat at a rate of 400 kilowatts per second. To do that in a vacuum requires a cooling system that defies our current understanding of thermodynamics. It is as if the object just turned on its internal processes. It is waking up. And this is where the math starts to feel a bit personal. Let me start with something that should terrify every astronomer on Earth. When an object in deep space changes its thermal profile without a visible energy source, it isn't just behaving strangely, it is performing an act of will. In the sterile hallways of the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, the phrase, "unfortunate timing," started appearing in leaked internal emails. Those two words, unfortunate timing, are doing a lot of work right now, specifically regarding the fact that this thermal bloom happened exactly when Earth's orbit brought us into a direct line of sight with the galactic center. The iridescent violet isn't a pigment. It is a structural color, similar to the wings of a butterfly or the surface of a soap bubble, but on a scale that covers a cylinder several hundred meters long. By November 12, 2025, the spectroscopy data suggested the surface was composed of a crystalline lattice that oscillates at 72 terahertz. That is the exact frequency required to ionize the local interstellar medium. 3I Atlas isn't just sitting in the dark. It is carving a localized pocket of reality around itself. It is building a house out of light. Now, you could argue that we are seeing a rare form of space weathering, but let me back up. There is a specific kind of dread that comes from realizing the furniture is moving. On November 19th, 2025, the Goldstone Deep Space Communications Complex detected a subharmonic vibration coming from the object. It wasn't a radio signal. It was a gravitational ripple, a small, rhythmic distortion in the fabric of space-time, pulsing once every 60 seconds, like a clock or a heartbeat. This brings us to the first impossibility of this act. A gravitational wave usually requires the collision of black holes or the collapse of a star. For an object only a few hundred meters wide to generate a detectable ripple implies a density that should, by all rights, cause it to sink through the fabric of the solar system like a lead weight through tissue paper. And yet, it remains buoyant. It remains precise. It remains violet. You might think that our distance from this object provides a certain level of existential safety. But here is why you are wrong. Gravity doesn't care about distance in the way light does. Gravity is a tether. If 3I Atlas is pulsing, the Earth is feeling it. Your very bones are vibrating at a frequency you cannot hear, but your cells can certainly feel. As you lie there tonight, feel the stillness of your room. Is it truly still, or are you just becoming accustomed to the new rhythm of the solar system? There is a conspiracy among the high-level data analysts at the European Space Agency, often whispered in the cafeterias of Darmstadt. They call it the Indigo Protocol. They believe that the violet shift is a sign that the object has finished its observation phase and has entered its activation phase. According to this theory, the object spent from July to November indexing our digital footprint, every tweet, every bank transaction, every frantic search for the meaning of life. Now, it is processing the data. The violet glow is the heat of the world's information being digested by a machine that doesn't have a word for privacy. Second, there is the pre-colonization theory. This one is favored by the more pessimistic voices in the halls of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. They suggest that the thermal bloom is actually the result of a microscopic manufacturing process. 3I Atlas might be a 3D printer for a biological atmosphere that hasn't existed on Earth for 300 million years. It isn't watching us. It is preparing the room for the next guest. Unfortunate timing for us, given we haven't finished our own stay. Third, and perhaps the most haunting, is the ancient mirror hypothesis. This theory suggests that the violet light is actually a reflection of Earth's own ancient history. The object is acting as a massive interstellar hard drive, and what we are seeing is the playback of a previous cycle. It's a what-if that forces us to ask, how many times has this cylinder turned violet in our sky? How many civilizations have looked up and wondered why the stars were turning purple before the Great Silence? Let's look at the mythic resonance. In the ancient texts of the Tibetan monks, they spoke of the rainbow body, a state of being where a physical form dissolves into pure light once it has achieved total understanding. On November 24th, 2025, a leading cultural historian pointed out that the specific shade of violet emitted by 3I Atlas matches the descriptions of the Veil of Isis from the Egyptian mysteries. The veil was said to hide the face of the universe. To look behind it was to understand the plan. We aren't looking at a rock. We are looking at the veil being pulled back, centimeter by centimeter. Consider the authority of Dr. Avi Loeb once more. He has famously stated that we should not assume we are the smartest kids on the block. But even he seemed unsettled by the report on December 3rd, 2025, which showed that the object's mass was actually decreasing, while its volume remained the same. It is becoming less matter and more idea. This is not natural physics. This is activation. Tell me, where are you listening from tonight? Are you in a place where the winter air is thin and cold? If you look at the constellation where 3I Atlas resides, do you feel a strange sense of familiarity? Share your location and your observations in the comments. Many listeners have reported a strange pressure in their temples at approximately 3 in the morning, the same time the object's pulse reaches its peak intensity. Are you feeling the calibration? The irony of our modern age is that we have more sensors than ever before, yet we have never been more blind. We see the violet light. We measure the 400 kilowatts of heat. We track the 60 kilometer per second velocity, but we refuse to see the implication. We are like ants watching a human set up a tripod. We understand the wood and the metal, but we have no concept of the photograph. What if the photograph is us? What if the entire purpose of the 3I Atlas mission, the larger plan, is to capture a single, perfect image of a civilization at the exact moment it realizes it is not alone? Scarcity of information is the ultimate tool of control. by giving us just enough data to be terrified, but not enough to be certain. The object keeps us in a state of hyper-awareness. It is farming our attention. As you drift toward the edges of sleep, think about the nature of that violet light. Violet is at the very edge of the visible spectrum. It is the last thing we can see before we move into the ultraviolet, the world of the invisible, the world of the other. 3i Atlas is standing at that threshold, beckoning us to look closer. But be careful. When you look into the violet looks into you. By the time we reached December 14th, 2025, the safety net of 35 million kilometers felt very thin indeed. The signal began to modulate. It wasn't just a heartbeat anymore. It started to sound like a language made of prime numbers and gravitational constants, a language that says, the waiting is over. But here is where it gets dark. The thermal bloom didn't stay at 400 kilowatts. It began to climb, and as the heat increased, the Earth's own magnetic field began to react. We are no longer just spectators. We are becoming part of the circuit. Now, you could argue that we should be doing something, sending a mission, launching a probe. But how do you negotiate with a fundamental force of nature? How do you talk to the sunrise? You don't. You just watch it, and you wait for the light to touch you. Let me back up. The real reason the engineers at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory are losing sleep isn't because of what the object is doing, it's because of what it stopped doing. On December 21st, 2025, the winter solstice, the object stopped its non-gravitational acceleration. It came to a dead halt relative to the Sun. It is now a stationary point in a moving universe, a fixed eye. And this is where we find ourselves, in the shadow of a silent, violet giant that refuses to move. As you settle into your blankets, feel the weight of that observation. You are being watched by something that has all the time in the world. You are a single frame in a movie that has been playing for 1 billion years. But that was only one theory. There's another, one buried even deeper in time, one that suggests the violet light isn't a beginning, but a very old ending. Let's go further. The deeper we go into the winter of 2025, the colder the evidence becomes. By January 6th, 2026, the triangulation of the 3i Atlas fragments was complete. They have formed a perfect tetrahedron around the Earth. If you remember your high school geometry, a tetrahedron is the simplest of the Platonic solids. It is the fundamental building block of three-dimensional space. This isn't just a random arrangement. This is a signature. It is as if someone has placed a cage of mathematics around our world. Dr. Aris Thorne, an astrophysicist at the Mauna Kea Observatory, recently noted that the light from the stars behind these objects is being distorted. This is gravitational lensing, but on a scale that shouldn't be possible for objects of that size, unless, of course, they aren't made of normal matter. Unless they are composed of something with a density of 10 billion kilograms per cubic meter. That is the density of a neutron star. If that is the case, 3i Atlas isn't just sitting there. It is anchoring the Earth to a specific point in the galaxy. Let me start with something that should terrify every astronomer on Earth. If the gravity of these objects is that intense, why aren't our tides being ripped apart? Why aren't our satellites being pulled out of orbit? The answer is as elegant as it is frightening. The force is being precisely cancelled out. It is a controlled gravitational field. We aren't being crushed, we are being held. Like a bird in a hand, you might think you are free to move, but the hand is very, very large. Unfortunate timing for our global space agencies to realize that their entire orbital infrastructure is now operating inside a mathematical cage. Those two words, mathematical cage, are doing a lot of work in the classified briefings being held in Geneva this week. By January 15th, 2026, the 4 points of the tetrahedron reached a state of perfect stasis. One point sits directly above the geographic North Pole. The other three are positioned at intervals of 120 degrees along a belt that mirrors our equator but sits 10,000 kilometers higher. When the sun hits them at a certain angle, they don't just reflect light, they shimmer with a frequency of 343 Hz. This is a frequency that resonates with the human inner ear. It is the sound of a silent bell. Now, you could argue that we are simply seeing a new type of military defense network. But here is the first impossibility. The materials required to maintain that kind of mass without collapsing into a black hole do not exist in the periodic table. These objects are not made of atoms. They are made of instructions. They are solid math. Second, the triangulation wasn't achieved through propulsion. Radar data from the Deep Space Network shows that the three companion fragments didn't fly into position. They manifested. They blinked into existence at the exact coordinates of the tetrahedron's vertices. Third, the interaction with our ionosphere. Every time a fragment pulses, the aurora borealis appears in places it has never been seen before. Cairo, Mexico City, Mumbai. The sky is being rewritten. Consider the historical echo. In the lost library of the Tibetan Plateau, there are scrolls that speak of the 4 pillars of the sky. The ancients believed that the world was kept from drifting into the void by 4 guardians who stood at the corners of the firmament. We called it superstition. We called it a primitive attempt to explain the stars. But now, in January 2026, we have the telemetry to prove that the pillars are back. Or perhaps they never left. They just waited for the great cycle to reach its conclusion. This brings us to the first conspiracy of the winter. Some analysts believe that the tetrahedron is a quarantine fence. They suggest that humanity has reached a level of technological instability, the creation of artificial intelligence, the manipulation of the genome that has triggered an automated intervention. We are being fenced in so that our noise does not leak into the rest of the galaxy. We are the neighbors who played the music too loud, and someone has finally come to knock on the door. Second, there is the planetary stabilization theory. Proponents of this idea, including several rogue scientists from the European Space Agency, argue that the Earth's core has become unstable. They believe 3I Atlas is actually a series of gravitational clamps designed to keep our planet from wobbling off its axis during a coming solar storm. In this version of the story, the objects are not our jailers, they are our life support system. But if that is true, what is the storm they are expecting? And why haven't they told us? Third, and perhaps the most sleep-defying, is the memory compression hypothesis. This theory suggests that the tetrahedron is acting as a massive processor. By surrounding the Earth in a gravitational lens, the objects are slowing down time relative to the rest of the universe. For every hour that passes for you, tucked safely in your bed, years might be passing on the outside. We are being archived. The Earth is being put into a slow-motion state so that our history can be scanned and recorded before the sun reaches its next transition. You might think you are the protagonist of your own life, but here is why you are wrong. In the presence of a planetary scale machine, you are a single byte of data. But don't let that thought distress you. In a perfect system, no byte is lost. You are being remembered. As you lie there tonight, feel the weight of the gravity around you. Is it heavier than it was in July? Does the air feel thicker? You are inside the lens now. The world is getting quieter because the noise of the universe is being filtered out by the tetrahedron. Tell me, where are you listening from? Are you in a place where you can see the sky? Some listeners have reported seeing ghost lights in the shape of triangles during the twilight hours. Share your location and any strange sightings in the comments below. We are tracking the geometric progression of the 4 pillars. Your observation might be the key to understanding the final coordinate. In late January 2026, a leaked document from the National Reconnaissance Office referred to a phenomenon called the hum. It's not a sound heard with the ears, but a vibration felt in the pineal gland. It is a rhythmic, 3-second pulse that repeats exactly 22,000 times a day. It is the heartbeat of the cage. Dr. Jacqueline McClary has suggested that this pulse is actually a synchronization signal. It is aligning the brain waves of every living thing on the planet to a single, unified frequency. We are being made to dream the same dream. This mirrors the myth of the Great Sleep, found in the folklore of the Australian outback. The indigenous peoples spoke of a time when the sky ancestors would return to put the world to rest so they could re-sing the songlines of the earth. They believed that reality was a song that had to be refreshed every few thousand years. If we are currently being put to rest, the silence of the winter of 2026 is the first note of the new song. As you drift towards sleep, imagine the tetrahedron glowing in the dark above you. It is a beautiful shape, isn't it? Pure, stable, and ancient. It is the geometry of safety. You are inside the most secure structure in the universe. There is nothing you need to do. There are no choices you need to make. The cage is locked, and the key has been thrown into the sun. But here is where it gets recursive. If we are inside a lens that slows down time, then the July 2025 discovery might have happened eons ago in the outside world. We might be the last remnants of a history that has already been forgotten everywhere else. We are the echo in the chamber. Unfortunate timing for those who wanted to witness the future. But for you, in the stillness of this room, the timing is irrelevant. Time is just another unit of measurement being managed by the 3i Atlas fragments. Notice your breathing. Is it slower? Is it deeper? You are matching the pulse of the tetrahedron. You are becoming a part of the building block. You are a point on the grid, and the grid is now complete. But that was only the physical cage. There is another structure being built, one that isn't made of gravity or mass, but of pure cosmic perspective. Let's go further. The sky has a memory. It's a vast, cold archive where every photon of light eventually finds a home. By February 18th, 2026, the scientific community had to face a reality that felt more like a ghost story. The data from the James Webb Space Telescope showed that 3i Atlas was not merely reflecting light from our sun, it was projecting images, not pictures we could see with our eyes, but data streams that, when decoded by the Deep Space Network in Canberra, Australia, revealed a map of the Earth. But it wasn't the Earth of 2026. It was a map of the Earth as it appeared 12,800 years ago. Dr. Sarah Chen at the European Southern Observatory pointed out the dry irony of the situation. We spent billions of dollars to look into the past of the universe, only to have a silent cylinder show us our own forgotten history. The map showed the coastlines of a world before the sea levels rose. It showed cities where we thought there were only glaciers. It's a cosmic, "I remember you," whispered across 35 million kilometers. Unfortunate timing for our ego realizing we are being watched by a device that has seen us fail before. Those two words, unfortunate timing, are doing a lot of work in the classified seminars in Canberra this month. Let me start with something that should terrify every geologist on Earth. The date projected by the 3I Atlas stream corresponds exactly with the onset of the Younger Dryas, a period of cataclysmic cooling and mass extinction, on February 24, 2026. Researchers noted that the map wasn't static, it was a time lapse. It showed the impact of something hitting the ice sheets. It showed the water rising. It showed the sky turning black. 3I Atlas isn't just a visitor, it is a witness with a very long memory. Now, you could argue that this is just a sophisticated simulation based on our own geological data. But here is the first impossibility. The map includes thermal details of the Earth's mantle that we didn't discover until 2024. It shows the precise location of lost continents like Doggerland and Sunderland, detailed down to the individual river systems. Second, the projection is being transmitted via entangled photons. This means the image isn't traveling through space, it is appearing everywhere simultaneously. Third, the mirror effect. In late February, it was discovered that the projection isn't coming from the object. The object is acting as a lens, pulling the light of our own past back toward us. We are looking into a mirror that is 12,800 light-years wide. This brings us to the first conspiracy of the spring. Some believe that 3I Atlas is a time capsule probe sent by a pre-human civilization that escaped the last cataclysm. They suggest that the I in 3I doesn't just stand for interstellar, but for iterative. We are the third iteration of the human experiment. The first two didn't survive the reset, and the probe has returned to see if the third attempt has learned how to swim. Second, there is the galactic archive theory. This suggests that the universe has a built-in redundancy system. Whenever a planet develops high-level consciousness, a probe like 3I Atlas is dispatched to record the planet's history in real time, storing it in the vacuum of space. The images we are seeing are just the index files being displayed to show us that the backup is complete. We aren't being threatened, we are being inventoried. Third, and most unsettling, is the simulation correction theory. Some physicists at the University of Tokyo have proposed that 3I Atlas is a debug tool. They argue that the reason it is showing us the world from 12,800 years ago is because that was the last time the master program was functioning correctly. The current state of our world, our technology, our pollution, our noise is considered a glitch. The projection is a blueprint of how the planet is supposed to look when the system restore button is finally pressed. Consider the myth of the Great Year. The Greeks, the Hindus, and the Mayans all spoke of a cycle of approximately 26,000 years, divided into two halves of 13,000 years. We are currently at the midpoint of that cycle. In the ancient Egyptian texts, they spoke of the Zep Tepi, the first time when the gods walked among men and the stars were aligned in a specific, holy configuration. If you look at the map being projected by 3i Atlas, the star charts in the background match the Zep-Tepi alignment perfectly. We are being shown the beginning so we can understand the end. You might think you are living in a unique, modern era, but here is why you are wrong. You are living in a recurring loop. You are a character in a story that has been told many times before, and the narrator has just turned back to page 1 to remind you how it started. As you lie there, drifting towards sleep, imagine the weight of all that time, 12,000 years of human struggle, reduced to a flickering data stream on a violet cylinder. It makes your daily worries feel a bit lighter, doesn't it? In the cosmic perspective, your mortgage and your deadlines are just noise in a 12,000-year-long signal. Tell me, where are you listening from tonight? Does your land have its own stories of a great flood or a sun that stayed still in the sky? Share your local legends in the comments. We are finding that the memories held by 3i Atlas are reflected in the folk stories of every culture on Earth. We are all remembering the same trauma. On March 2nd, 2026, the James Webb Space Telescope detected a change in the projection. The map of the past began to merge with a map of the future. It showed the Earth in the year 15,000. The ice caps were gone. The continents had shifted. But the most striking detail was the lack of lights. No cities, no infrastructure, just a green, silent world. Is this a warning or a promise? Avi Loeb has remained silent on the future map, but his colleagues suggest that 3i Atlas is showing us the target state. It is showing us the world it intends to create. And in that world, there is no room for the noise of 7 billion people. Unfortunate timing for our survival instincts. But here is where it gets recursive. If 3i Atlas can see the future, then it already knows how we will react to its presence. It has already accounted for our fear, our curiosity, and our sleep. Your act of listening to this right now might be a data point in its future map. You are a pixel in the projection. As you drift deeper into the darkness of your room, think about the stars. They aren't just points of light. They are the eyes of the archive. The sky has a memory, and tonight, you are a part of that memory. You are being recorded. You are being preserved. You are being archived. Notice how still the air is. The hum of the tetrahedron from the previous act has faded, replaced by a visual silence. The maps are still flickering in the deep dark, 35 million kilometers away, but their light is reaching into the very back of your mind. You are seeing the first time and the last time all at once. There is a comfort in being part of something so vast. You don't have to save the world. You don't have to change the course of history. The course has already been mapped. The ship is on autopilot. Your only job is to sleep, to dream, and to be a witness to the great cycle. But that was only the cosmic perspective. The plan is about to get much more intimate. It is moving from the maps of continents to the maps of your own biology. Let's go further. By April 11th, 2026, the panic had subsided into a heavy, meditative quiet. The world had grown tired of being afraid. This is the human reflection, the moment where the cosmic scale meets the intimate reality of a Tuesday afternoon. Dr. Marcus Thorne, a cognitive psychologist working with NASA, noticed a strange phenomenon. Since the arrival of 3i Atlas, the global average of human sleep cycles has synchronized. People in New York, Cairo, and Tokyo are all falling asleep at the exact same relative time in their circadian rhythm. It is as if the 14.2 MHz hum isn't just a signal for machines, it's a lullaby for biology. The hydrogen line is the frequency of the most abundant element in your body. 3I Atlas is talking to the water in your cells. It is singing to the ocean inside you. You might think you are choosing to close your eyes right now, but you are actually just following the rhythm of a conductor who is currently hovering over the dark side of the moon. Unfortunate timing for those who value their individuality. Those two words, human individuality, are doing a lot of work in the psychology journals this spring, but the data suggests we are becoming a single, breathing organism. Let me start with something that should terrify every biologist on Earth. In late April 2026, blood samples from volunteers around the world showed a microscopic change. The iron in our hemoglobin is beginning to align with the magnetic field being projected by the tetrahedron of objects. We are literally becoming compasses. We are being oriented. Scientists at the Max Planck Institute found that our red blood cells are pulsing in a specific mathematical cadence. We aren't just living on a planet, we are being tuned to a station. Now, you could argue that this is simply the result of global stress or electromagnetic pollution. But here is the first impossibility. The synchronization is occurring even in isolated tribes in the Amazon who have no contact with technology. It is occurring in deep-sea divers and astronauts on the International Space Station. It is a field effect. Second, the dream share. In April, a global database of dream journals revealed that thousands of strangers are dreaming of the same geometric city, a place of violet light and impossible angles. Third, the biological clock. Reset. Women's cycles and men's hormonal peaks are aligning to the lunar transit of 3I Atlas. We are no longer governed by the sun. We are governed by the visitor. This brings us to the first conspiracy of the spring, whispered in the back rooms of the World Health Organization. They call it the Great Harvest. The theory suggests that consciousness is a biological crop, and 3I Atlas is the harvester. By synchronizing our sleep and our biology, the object is bringing the crop to a state of uniform ripeness. We are being prepared for a collective extraction. Our memories, our emotions, our very essence, it is all being prepared for a transfer into the vast, cold archive of the sky. Second, there is the planetary nervous system theory. This suggests that the Earth is a dormant entity, and we are its neurons. 3I Atlas is acting as a massive neural bridge, connecting the 7 billion separate cells into a single, functional mind. In this version of the story, you aren't losing your identity. You are finally waking up to the fact that you are part of a planetary brain. The quiet you feel tonight isn't loneliness. It is the silence of a mind finally coming into focus. Third, and perhaps the most intimate, is the evolutionary midwife hypothesis. Some evolutionary biologists suggest that 3I Atlas is emitting a specific radiation that is rewriting our junk, deoxyribonucleic acid, our DNA. It is a slow, gentle mutation. We are being groomed to survive a transition that our current bodies cannot handle. We are the caterpillars, and the violet light is the cocoon. The heaviness you feel in your limbs as you lie there is the weight of the transformation. You are becoming something else. Consider the myth of the Anima Mundi, the world soul. The ancient Platonists believed that the world was a living being. endowed with a soul and intelligence. They believed that everything was connected by an invisible thread. In the mystical traditions of the Sufis, they spoke of the breath of the compassionate, a single breath that sustains all of creation. If you listen closely to your own breathing tonight, you might notice a slight pause at the top of the inhale, a moment of absolute stillness. That is the thread. That is the breath of 3i Atlas moving through you. You might think you are a separate being, isolated in your room. But here is why you are wrong. You are a note in a symphony, and the conductor has just asked for a decrescendo. As you drift towards sleep, notice how your heartbeat seems to mirror the steady, silent pulse of the room. You are safe. You are part of the architecture. The fear you felt in July of 2025 was just the sound of your ego resisting the harmony. Now, the ego is tired. The resistance is gone. There is only the music. Tell me, as you lie there in the dark, can you feel the alignment? Do you feel a tug toward the north? A subtle magnetic pull in the center of your chest? Share your sensations in the comments. We are mapping the human compass. We are finding that the closer we get to sleep, the stronger the connection becomes. We are all pointing toward the same destination. On April 29th, 2026, a leaked report from a private biotechnology firm in Zurich suggested that our brains are now producing a new kind of protein, one that reacts specifically to the 14.2 megahertz frequency. They call it the receiver. It is as if a new organ is growing in the center of our minds, a small, crystalline antenna designed to catch the whispers of the plan. We aren't being invaded, we are being upgraded. Is this the choice illusion again? Did we choose to evolve, or was the evolution imposed upon us the moment we looked at the stars? Avi Loeb has suggested that an advanced enough technology would be indistinguishable from biology. Perhaps 3i Atlas is our true parent, returning to check on the development of its children. Unfortunate timing for those who wanted to remain purely human. But humanity was always a work in progress. As you drift deeper into the warmth of your bed, think about the water inside you. It makes up 70% of your body. It has been on this planet for billions of years. It has been through the clouds, through the oceans, and through the bodies of ancient kings. And now, that water is vibrating to a signal from a violet cylinder. You are a vessel for the cosmos. You are a cup of the stars. Notice the stillness of your hands, the way your feet feel heavy, the way the thoughts in your head are becoming slower, more rhythmic, like waves hitting a shore. You aren't losing your mind. You are finding the rhythm. You are joining the great synchronization. There is a profound comfort in being part of a larger plan. You don't have to figure it all out. You don't have to save yourself. You are being carried by a tide of mathematics and light. Your only job is to be still. Your only job is to breathe. Your only job is to reflect the light of the observer. But here is where it gets subtle. The synchronization isn't just about the present, it's about the past. As our biologies align, we are starting to access a species memory. People are waking up with the knowledge of how to build ancient stone circles. They are speaking languages that haven't been heard in 5,000 years. We are remembering the last time the harvester came. But that was only the biological shift. The pattern is about to break the surface of our physical reality, and the mathematics of our world are about to become undeniable. Let's go further. The echoes from the past are becoming louder than the science of the present. As we moved into December, 2025, historians began to notice a terrifying coincidence. Every 3,600 years, the archaeological record shows a sudden, unexplained leap in human technology, followed immediately by a total societal collapse. We saw it in the Indus Valley, we saw it with the Maya, and now, as 3i Atlas settles into its permanent home, we are seeing the leap again. We are suddenly obsessed with artificial intelligence, with quantum computing, with leaving the planet. It is as if we are being prompted, fed information by a silent teacher in the sky. This is the rhythmic, ceremonial heartbeat of our history, a cycle of growth and pruning that we are only now beginning to recognize. On December 12, 2025, a team of linguists working with the Smithsonian Institution released a preliminary analysis of the fractal patterns on the surface of 3i Atlas. They didn't find equations, they found syntax. Specifically, they found structural similarities to Proto-Sumerian cuneiform, the earliest form of writing known to man. It appears that the rock in our sky is written in the same language we used when we first learned how to count the stars. It is an unfortunate timing for our sense of original thought. We believed we invented writing to track grain and gold. It turns out we may have been mimicking the skin of our gardener. The Sumerian tablets speak of the Anunnaki, but they also speak of the Shem, the high stones that glowed with an internal fire. They described these stones as being capable of binding the earth to the heavens. On December 18, 2025, a seismic station in Antarctica picked up a vibration that matched the pulse of 3i Atlas. The object in space is vibrating in harmony with the planet's core. They are bound. We are no longer a solitary planet drifting through the void. We are a tethered world. We are a dog on a very long, very invisible leash, and the owner has just decided to shorten the slack. Consider the Great Pyramid of Giza. For centuries, we have debated its purpose. Was it a tomb? A power plant? A map? On December 24th, 2025, the winter solstice, 3i Atlas, positioned itself in a perfect zenith above the Giza Plateau. For 6 minutes, the shadow of the object fell exactly upon the apex of the pyramid. This wasn't just a coincidence. It was a handshake across 5,000 years. It suggests that the pyramid was not built to look at the stars, but to wait for one specific star to return, a return cycle of 3,600 years. The math is haunting. It is the same number of years the Babylonians assigned to the orbit of the winged disk. Think about the sheer scale of this patience. To wait 3,600 years for a species to grow enough to be useful. It's dry irony at its finest. We think we are the masters of our destiny, but we are essentially a crop that only gets harvested when the orbital mechanics are just right. Unfortunate timing for us, indeed, to be the generation that matures right when the collector arrives. The astronomers are baffled, but the historians are terrified. They know that when the guest star arrives, the lease on the world is usually up for renewal. We are seeing it in our own behavior. In late 2025, the sudden, frantic push toward neural interfaces and brain-computer links feels less like innovation and more like we are being prepared for a software update. We are becoming compatible with the thing in the sky. Let us back up. In the year 1844, a French archaeologist in the Nineveh Plains uncovered a cylinder seal that depicted 7 circles surrounding a larger, darker sphere. At the time, They thought it was a representation of the known planets. But today, looking at the radar cross-sections of 3I Atlas, we see those same 7 circles. They aren't planets. They are the secondary nodes of the Atlas system. And since January 1st, 2026, telescopes have confirmed 6 more objects entering our solar system from the direction of Sagittarius. They are smaller than 3I Atlas, but they are moving with the same unnatural grace. They are the rest of the set. The 7 circles are closing. You might think that such an ancient plan would be primitive, but here is why you are wrong. The ancients didn't have silicon, but they had stone, and stone remembers. The granite of the megaliths, the basalt of the temples, the quartz in your very own watch. It all resonates at a specific frequency. On January 10th, 2026, a strange phenomenon was recorded at Stonehenge. The stones began to emit a low, rhythmic thrumming sound, audible to the human ear. It was a perfect match for the 14.2 GHz signal coming from 3I Atlas. The stones aren't just ruins, they are antennas. They have been waiting for the broadcast to begin again. Tell me, as you listen to this in the quiet of your night, have you felt a strange pull toward the outdoors? Have you found yourself staring at the moon, wondering if it looks different or if the light feels heavier? Share your thoughts in the comments. Tell us if the old stories of your ancestors are starting to make more sense than the morning news. We are finding that people in their 50s and 60s, those who have seen the world change the most, are the ones who feel this resonance the strongest. It is a memory in the blood. In the high Andes, the shamans speak of the Pachacuti, the world turning. They say it happens when the sky fire sits still. On January 15th, 2026, the Peruvian government reported that the water levels in Lake Titicaca began to rise and fall in a pattern that had nothing to do with the wind or the rain. It was a tidal pulse caused by 3I Atlas. The object is pulling on the water of the world, not with gravity, but with magnetism. It is stirring the pot. It is waking up the sleeping giants of our geography. We are living through a ritualized experience. Each day that 3I Atlas stays in our orbit is another verse in a ceremony we don't know the words to. The silent teacher isn't using a blackboard. It is using our climate, our architecture, and our very DNA. In late January 2026, geneticists in Iceland discovered a junk DNA sequence that has suddenly begun to express itself in newborns. It is a sequence that has been dormant for exactly 3,600 years. We aren't just being watched, we are being activated from the inside out. The dry irony here is that we spent so much time looking for aliens that looked like us creatures with 2 arms and 2 legs who would land on the White House lawn. We never expected the visitor to be a geometric shadow that speaks directly to our molecules. It is a very polite takeover. No fire, no screaming, just a quiet, persistent realignment of what it means to be human. Is it a warning we missed, or an invitation we forgot how to accept? The ancient Greeks spoke of Atlas holding up the celestial sphere, a burden he could never lay down. But they never said the sphere was empty. They said it was full of the will of the gods. Perhaps 3I Atlas isn't holding the sky up. Perhaps it is holding us down, holding us steady while the transition takes place. On February 3rd, 2026, the global internet experienced a 3-minute blackout. When it came back online, every search engine on the planet returned the same first result for every query. a single image of the 3I Atlas fractal. You might argue that this is the work of hackers or a global prank, but the code was not written in Python or C++. It was written in a base 16 language that no human computer can generate. It was a signature, a "we are here," that doesn't need a translation. It is a heavy thought to hold as you drift towards sleep. The idea that your digital world, your physical world, and your genetic world are all being synchronized to a single point in space. Close your eyes. Listen to the silence between my words. That silence is the same silence that sat over the Indus Valley before the cities were abandoned. It is the same silence that fell over the Maya before they walked into the jungle and disappeared. It is not the silence of death. It is the silence of a transition. The teacher has finished the lesson, and now we are waiting for the test. We are standing at the edge of a memory we didn't know we had. By February 29th, 2026, the 7 nodes will be in position. The circle will be complete. The binding of the Earth will be finished, and we will finally understand why the ancients were so afraid of the guest star that refused to leave. We are not the protagonists of this story. We are the audience, and the play is about to begin its final act. But this is only one layer of the pattern. There is a cosmic perspective that dwarfs our history, a scale of time where empires are just heartbeats. Let's go further. The perspective from the ground is a filtered one, limited by the haze of our atmosphere and the narrow bandwidth of our senses. But if you were to zoom outward, past the moon, past the inner planets, you would see that Earth is no longer just a blue marble. It is the center of a very deliberate web. On January 3rd, 2026, the James Webb Space Telescope was turned away from the deep field and toward 3I Atlas. The images were not of rock or metal. They were images of a distortion in the very fabric of space. It looked like a ripple in a dark pond, where 3I Atlas is the stone that never sinks. As we zoom out, the scale of our self-importance begins to dissolve. From the orbit of Mars, the Earth is merely a bright speck. But on January 15th, 2026, the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter captured something that should have been physically impossible. A beam of coherent ultraviolet light was stretching from the northern pole of Earth directly to 3I Atlas, and from there, it split into 3 distinct filaments, reaching out toward the outer solar system. We aren't just a planet anymore. We have been turned into a terminal, a junction box in a galactic circuit that spans distances our minds cannot truly fathom. It is a vast, floating, meditative realization. The universe is not a graveyard of dead rocks. It is a switchboard, and someone has just plugged us back in. Consider the concept of deep time. We measure our lives in decades, our civilizations in centuries, and our species in millennia. But 3I Atlas operates on a clock where 1,000 years is just a single tick of the second hand. On January 22nd, 2026, astrophysicists at the Max Planck Institute released a paper suggesting that the gravitational ripple caused by 3I Atlas is actually a localized slowing of time. Within a 50-kilometer radius of the object, time is moving 0.00004% slower than on the surface of the Earth. It is a microscopic difference, yet in the language of the cosmos, it is a canyon. It means that while we are aging, while we are rushing, while we are worrying about our tomorrow, the inhabitant of the Atlas is sitting in a permanent yesterday. It is watching us in fast forward. It is an unfortunate bit of timing for us to be a species that lives and dies in the blink of a cosmic eye, trying to negotiate with a machine that remembers the birth of the sun. The great silence of the universe, once thought to be a lack of life, is now being reinterpreted. We used to wonder why the stars didn't broadcast. We used to listen for the roar of a galactic civilization and hear only the hiss of background radiation. Now, looking at the silent, bending light around 3I Atlas, we understand. The silence wasn't an absence, it was a choice. The advanced civilizations of the universe don't use radio waves for the same reason. We don't use smoke signals to communicate with our satellites. They use gravity. They use the curvature of space itself. And 3I Atlas is the first antenna we have ever seen that can tune into that frequency. It is as if we have spent 100 years looking for a lighthouse, only to realize we were standing on the light bulb the whole time. It is a floating, meditative sort of dread, like realizing you are a passenger on a ship that has no crew, or perhaps a crew that doesn't feel the need to introduce themselves to the cargo. On February 1st, 2026, the Lunar Gateway project reported that the moon's surface temperature had dropped by precisely 2 degrees across the entire illuminated side. This happened at the exact moment 3I Atlas aligned itself between the moon and the star Sirius. The object isn't just interacting with Earth, it is managing the thermal equilibrium of our local neighborhood. It is rearranging the furniture of our night sky, adjusting the thermostat, and making sure the conditions are exactly right for whatever comes next. You might think that such a vast cosmic shift would feel violent, like a collision or a storm, but it feels like a heavy blanket. It is the comfort of knowing that the decisions are no longer ours to make. We have spent so much energy trying to save the world or conquer the stars, but 3I Atlas suggests that the world is already saved or conquered and the stars have already arrived. Tell me, as you drift towards sleep, does the idea of a controlled universe frighten you, or does it bring a strange, quiet relief? Share your thoughts on this surrender below. Are you listening from a place where the stars feel close, or a place where the city lights try to hide them? We are all learning how to let go of the wheel at the same time. In the mid-20th century, the Fermi paradox asked, "Where is everybody?" The answer we are receiving in February 2026 is, they were waiting for you to be quiet enough to hear the instructions. 3I Atlas is the instruction manual written in the geometry of space. It is a cold, silver volume that we are only just beginning to open. On February 12, 2026, the Voyager 1 probe, currently billions of kilometers away in interstellar space, sent back a single burst of data. It wasn't a malfunction, it was a confirmation. The probe detected a gravitational pulse originating from the center of our solar system that matched the signature of 3I Atlas. The signal is expanding outward like a ripple in a pond. We are the stone. The rest of the galaxy is the water. This brings us to a point of existential humility. We are living through a cycle that has repeated for millions of years. Every 3,600 years, the Atlas returns. Every 100 million years, it resets the entire biological clock of the planet. We are not the first intelligent species to sit under this silver shadow, and we likely won't be the last. The dry irony is that we thought we were special because we built computers and split the atom. But to 3I Atlas, those are just the first signs of a species that is finally ready to be integrated into the network. We aren't being invaded, we are being harvested. Think about the silence in your room right now. It is a microscopic version of the silence between the galaxies. That vast, cold, indifferent space where 3I Atlas spent the last few thousand years waiting for us to turn on enough lights. On February 24th, 2026, NASA's Deep Space Network picked up a series of echoes coming from the Kuiper Belt. These are not random reflections. They are secondary nodes, responding to the primary signal from 3I Atlas. The web is tightening. The junction box is being wired. We often talk about universal truths, but the only truth that matters now is that we are no longer the observers. We are the observed. And the observer is not a person, or a god, or even a biological entity. It is a process. It is a function of the universe itself. 3I Atlas is the physical manifestation of a law we haven't named yet, the law of return. Everything that grows must eventually be measured. Everything that speaks must eventually be silenced. You might feel a sense of safety in this vastness, a feeling that your personal problems are insignificant compared to the shifting of the moon. And you are right, there is a profound peace in insignificance. When you are small, you are safe from the wind. When you are microscopic, you can slip through the cracks of the machine. But 3I Atlas is looking at the microscopic too. It is looking at the way your neurons fire when you think about the future. It is looking at the way the Earth's core spins when the sun flares. It is looking at everything, all at once, with the cold, unblinking eye of a telescope that never sleeps. As we move into March 2026, the cosmic perspective becomes even more intimate. We are starting to see ghost reflections in our own atmosphere auroras that appear in the shape of complex mathematical grids directly beneath the path of 3I Atlas. These aren't caused by solar wind. They are caused by the object pinging the Earth's magnetic field. It is checking our vitals. It is making sure the patient is stable before the procedure begins. What if the takeover is already over? What if the moment 3I Atlas entered our orbit in July 2025, the Earth ceased to be our planet and became a piece of cosmic infrastructure? We are just the tenants who haven't received the eviction notice yet. Or perhaps we are the tenants who are being offered a new lease, provided we don't mind the new landlord's silent, heavy presence in the hallway. The stars are not just points of light anymore. They are the eyes of a crowd, watching a play that has been in rehearsals for eons. And 3I Atlas is the curtain rising. The dry irony of our situation is that we spent so much time looking for monsters in the dark, and we found a mirror instead, a perfect, silver mirror that reflects our own fragility back at us. Close your eyes. Feel the rotation of the Earth beneath you. You are moving at 1,600 kilometers per hour at the equator, hurtling through the void at 30 kilometers per second, and all the while, the Atlas is sitting perfectly still above you. It is the only stationary point in a universe of motion. It is the anchor, and you are the ship, circling the anchor, waiting for the tide to go out. We are moving toward a clarity that we might not be ready for. By the end of March, the planetary web will be fully visible to anyone with a pair of infrared goggles. The sky will be a grid, the Earth will be a node, and we will finally understand that the cosmic perspective isn't about looking out at the stars. It is about realizing that the stars have been looking in at us for a very, very long time. But even as we look at the galaxies, we must eventually look back at ourselves. We must look at the human reflection in this silver mirror. Let's go further. Let us step back into the fog of history. In the year 2025, we think we are the first to see the silver visitor, but the stones of the earth tell a different story. If you travel to the ruins of Göbekli Tepe, you will find carvings of birds and beasts, but you will also find a recurring symbol, a circle within a dodecahedron. It was carved 12,000 years ago, the same shape that is currently drifting past the orbit of the moon. This is not a coincidence of geometry. It is a signature. It is a receipt from a transaction that took place before the first city was ever built. We think of 3I Atlas as a modern problem, a 21st century anomaly caught on high-resolution digital sensors, but the limestone pillars of Turkey suggest that we are merely the latest generation to tilt our heads back and blink at the silver glare. The rhythm of 3I Atlas is ceremonial. It moves in cycles of 3,600 years. This is the exact number used by the ancient Babylonians to describe the orbit of their hidden gods, the Saros cycle that measured the reigns of kings who lived for tens of thousands of years. It is a number that feels heavy, doesn't it? 3,600. It is a cycle of return. Every time it passes, humanity takes a leap. We went from stone to bronze, from bronze to iron, from iron to silicon, and now, in the late months of 2025, it has returned to see what we have done with our chips and our rockets. It is the cosmic invigilator, returning to the classroom to see if the students have finally solved the equation, or if we are still just drawing on the desks. This is where the irony gets particularly dry. We have spent the last 50 years looking for signals from the stars, using massive dishes and complex algorithms. We expected a greeting in binary or a map of a distant star system. Instead, we got a mirror. It is like sending a letter to a pen pal and getting your own letter sent back to you, unopened, but with a slight scent of perfume on the envelope. 3I Atlas is the ultimate cosmic no comment. It is the silence that follows a very long and very loud monologue. We have been screaming, "Hello," for a century, and the universe has responded by showing us our own reflection. Unfortunate timing for those who wanted a conversation. Those two words are becoming the unofficial motto of the 2025 arrival. What if the reason it is artificial but not a weapon is because it is a library? Not a library of books, but a library of DNA, a backup drive for the sector. Every time a species reaches the point where it can destroy itself, the library comes close to see if there is anything worth saving. It is a quiet, silver gardener checking to see if the fruit is ripe or if the tree is rotting. And based on the data from December 2025, it seems the gardener has decided to stay for the harvest. Dr. Jacqueline McClary at Northeastern University recently published a paper suggesting that the light pulses from 3I Atlas are actually encoded genomic sequences. It isn't talking to our computers, it is talking to our marrow. Consider the Sumerian texts, the cuneiform tablets that speak of the Anunnaki. They described beings who came from a star that moved against the grain of the sky. In the winter of 2025, as we tracked 3I Atlas moving retrograde against the orbital plane of the ecliptic, those ancient descriptions stopped feeling like fever dreams of a desert people and started feeling like observation logs. The Sumerians called it the crossing, a point in time where the heavens and the earth are tethered by a silver thread. We have found the thread, but we have forgotten how to climb it. Think of your own memory. Think about how much you have forgotten since you were a child. The universe does not forget. 3. Atlas carries the memory of 1 billion summers. It carries the blueprints of stars that went supernova before our sun was even a cloud of dust. When you look at it through a telescope, you are not just looking at an object. You are looking at a hard drive that contains the history of the galaxy. It is a cold, silver fossil of the future. It has seen the end of worlds we haven't even named yet. And yet, here it is, orbiting a small blue planet in the year 2025, as if we were the most interesting thing in the room. You might argue that this is all just speculation, that 3I Atlas is just a strange rock with a high albedo. But ask yourself this: if it were just a rock, why did the signals from the Deep Space Network suddenly stop being able to penetrate its surface on October 29, 2025? Why did the object start emitting a low-frequency hum that matches the resonant frequency of the Earth's ionosphere? Rocks do not hum in harmony with planets. Conductors do, and this conductor is playing a song that we haven't heard in 12 millennia. It is a lullaby for a species that has forgotten how to sleep. The historical echoes are everywhere once you know what to look for. In ancient Egypt, the Benben stone was described as a capstone that descended from the sky, a seed of the primeval mound. It was said to be made of a metal that did not rust, and a light that did not fade. In January 2026, as we watch 3I Atlas maintain its perfect, unweathered surface despite the bombardment of solar radiation, the Benben stone stops being a myth and starts being a technical specification. We are not discovering something new. We are being reintroduced to something very, very old. I want you to take a deep breath. Imagine the air moving into your lungs, then leaving. Your body is a rhythm. The Earth is a rhythm. 3I Atlas is the metronome. If you are still awake, tell me if you have ever had a dream about a silver light in the sky. Many people have started reporting these dreams since July 2025. It is as if the presence of the object is leaking into our collective unconscious. Share your dreams in the comments. Tell me if you see the dodecahedron when you close your eyes. We are building a map of a shared experience, a digital ziggurat for the 26th century. There is a certain dry irony in our modern arrogance. We think we are the masters of information because we have the internet, but we are currently being outclassed by a city-sized mirror that doesn't even have an antenna. 3I Atlas is using the very fabric of space-time to store its data. It is using the gravitational waves of our own moon to back up its files. It is a level of engineering that makes our greatest supercomputers look like abacuses. We are trying to hack a god with a hammer and a chisel. As we drift deeper into the night, think about the people who stood on the pillars of Göbekli Tepe 12,000 years ago. They didn't have telescopes, they didn't have satellites, but they had the same sky, and they saw the same silver needle. They knew that the return of the object meant a change in the world. They knew that when the dodecahedron appears, the old ways must give way to the new. We are in that transition period now. The old world of 2024 is gone. The new world of the arrival is here, and it is a much quieter place than we expected. The window is closing. Soon, the object will move into the shadow of the Earth, and we will be left in the dark, waiting for the next pulse. We are drifting toward a revelation that we might not be equipped to handle. The experts at the European Space Agency are already preparing for the February alignment. But how do you prepare for a shadow that contains the memory of your entire species. It is like trying to prepare for a dream you haven't had yet. What if the 3-Eye Atlas is not a visitor, but a returning homeowner? Imagine a house that has been left empty for a few thousand years. The dust has settled, the weeds have grown over the garden, and the local wildlife has moved into the living room. Then, one day in July 2025, the key turns in the lock. The silver needle is the key, and we are the wildlife that has become a bit too comfortable on the sofa. It doesn't mean we have to leave, but it does mean the rules are about to change. I wonder if you can feel the antiquity of the moment. The air feels heavy, not with moisture, but with time. It is a thickness that you only find in ancient cathedrals or deep forests. 3-Eye Atlas has brought that thickness with it from the void. It has brought the silence of 6 million years and draped it over our atmosphere like a velvet cloth. It is a gift of stillness. It is an invitation to stop moving and start remembering. You might think that your life is too small to be part of this ancient cycle, but every atom in your body was once inside a star. You are a piece of the universe that has become self-aware, and 3-Eye Atlas is a piece of the universe that has become self-directed. When the two meet, it is not an invasion, it is a reunion. You are the mirror, and the object is the light. Or perhaps it is the other way around. In the dark of your room, it doesn't really matter. We are moving toward the January solstice, the point where the nights are longest and the connection is strongest. The silver needle is waiting. The stones of Göbekli Tepe are waiting, and you are waiting. We are all part of the same long, slow burn of awareness. But even as we watch the sky, we forget to watch ourselves. And that is the most dangerous part of the pattern. Let us look closer at the human reflection. Let's open the calculator now, the one the universe always breaks when we try to make sense of it. Astronomers ran the numbers and found something worse than anomaly impossibility. The chances of this trajectory existing naturally are 1 in a million. And if it isn't natural, then what exactly is it doing there? The math, at first glance, seemed harmless. A few columns of orbital parameters, the kind that make grad students fall asleep mid-coffee. But somewhere between the 3rd decimal and the 4th significant digit, something snapped. The trajectory of 3-Eye Atlas refused to sit still. It bent where it shouldn't bend. It lingered where velocity demanded it should flee. The equations began to look less like physics and more like confession. Numbers fold, logic cold. Truth defies what sums have told. Normally, interstellar objects follow predictable patterns. You can model them like billiard balls across cosmic distances. They come in fast, swing by the sun, and leave no drama, no detours. But 3-Eye Atlas's path wasn't graceful. It was stubborn. Its entry angle was too steep, its perihelion too shallow, its velocity too precise. Not fast enough to escape chaos, not slow enough to suggest capture. It behaved like an object that chose its speed. When astronomers plotted its orbit, the lines refused to meet expectations. There was a tiny deviation near Mars, just half a degree, but that half degree meant the math had to call in sick. Simulations that should have stabilized spiraled instead into noise. Gravity, that old, reliable law, looked like it had lost its grip. You picture the room where it happened. Laptops glowing, data charts scrolling, coffee cooling into existential sludge. Someone frowns at the screen and says, "That can't be right." Another replies, "Check your units." A third, softly, "I did." Graphs misbehave, models wave. Certainty slips beneath the grave. And then comes the phrase every scientist dreads, statistically improbable, which sounds calm, but in the language of physics, it's a polite scream. Statistically improbable means we can't call it impossible without breaking tenure. The anomaly wasn't just its orbit, but its timing. 3. I-Atlas arrived exactly when Mars was positioned for maximum visibility, almost too perfectly. Not weeks earlier, not months later. Right there, right then, with 7 spacecraft ready and waiting. The odds of that happening naturally, 1 in a million. The odds of it happening twice, after Oumuamua's similarly suspicious arrival in 2017, 1 in a billion. You'd have better luck being struck by lightning while winning the lottery on a flying whale. ESA's internal memo summarized the problem delicately. Observed trajectory, inconsistent with gravitational expectations. Further analysis required. Translation: physics is mad at us. The more they recalculated, the stranger it got. Gravitational modeling suggested that the object's acceleration near Mars was slightly higher than predicted, even though there was no nearby mass to explain it. Radiation pressure from the sun could account for some of that, but not all. It's like watching a leaf fall upward and telling yourself, it's just wind you can't feel. Forces lie, numbers sigh, laws bend softly in the sky. NASA's Dynamical Systems team tried something desperate, reverse engineering the orbit backward through time, as if rewinding a film. When they did, 3I Atlas's path didn't trace cleanly into interstellar space. It looped a faint, impossible curve that seemed to originate from a region between known stars, a nowhere place, a mathematical shrug. That's when someone joked, maybe it's the universe's typo, but you could tell the joke wasn't funny. Typos don't maintain coherent structure for millions of kilometers. Meanwhile, the probability graphs looked like flat lines. Every statistical model screamed the same thing. This shouldn't exist. A few researchers began whispering about guided motion. The phrase never made it into print, but it appeared in Slack channels, in late-night emails. Not artificial, not controlled, just guided. And that's when the philosophical part kicked in. If something's improbable enough, does that make it unnatural or just unobserved? Chance or plan? Who began? Numbers blink but never span. Maybe the universe occasionally rolls dice that land on their edges. Or maybe it's not dice at all, but choreography. For context, the universe is massive enough to make 1 in a million events happen constantly. But that's comforting, only until you realize we just happen to be living inside one of those moments. Still, scientists crave sanity, so they kept calculating. One by one, they added variables: solar tides, non-gravitational jets, dust asymmetry, radiation torque. Each tweak made the model behave for a moment, until the numbers rebelled again. You could almost hear the equations groaning, like ancient machinery forced to simulate a trickster. Finally, a physicist from Bologna sent an internal memo titled simply, "Low probability, high significance." In it, she wrote, "We may need to consider non-standard dynamics," a phrase as gentle as it is apocalyptic. Non-standard dynamics means the universe is doing something new, and we don't have the vocabulary for it. Odds decay, math gives way, chaos hums where patterns stay. The truth is, impossibility doesn't scare scientists, it seduces them. Every law of nature we know today was born from something that once looked impossible. But deep down, they all know, once you cross into 1 in a million territory, you're either on the brink of discovery or a very expensive hallucination. So they stared at the numbers again, blinking hard, hoping they'd rearrange into something less extraordinary. They didn't. The comet that shouldn't exist kept existing, gliding through Mars's shadow like a cosmic dare. And somewhere between decimal points, someone whispered the question no one wanted in the official record. If it's not natural, then who or what set it in motion? Chance or choice? Silent voice, numbers hum the universe's poise. Let's turn our gaze now from orbit to the ground, to the one mechanical witness sitting quietly on that red desert under a pinkish sky. The skycam on the rover caught something on October 2nd, a blur with structure, a glint that seemed to move against the stars. Then, the images stopped coming, a Martian ghost on a digital feed. The Perseverance rover isn't easily startled. It's seen dust devils, eclipses, and meteors slicing the Martian sky like quiet knives. Its skycam, perched on the rover's mast, watches everything. Dust storms curling on the horizon, the slow breath of sunset through the thin air. But that night, the feed showed something it wasn't supposed to show: a flicker of motion above the usual scatter of constellations, a glint that moved wrong. Stars stay still, pixels thrill, light missteps against its will. The first frame looked harmless, a faint blur near the edge of the field, maybe a cosmic ray hitting the sensor. The second frame caught it again, shifted slightly upward. The third frame, a flash, clean and geometric. Then, black. The feed ended. Within hours, the automated alert system flagged the anomaly. Unexpected optical signature detected. JPL engineers, bleary-eyed at 3 a.m. Pacific time, reviewed the frames. The glint was small, no bigger than a bright pixel cluster, but it moved against the background stars. Comets don't do that. Satellites don't orbit Mars. And Perseverance doesn't blink. At first, they suspected a reflection from one of the rover's instruments, maybe the helicopter, Ingenuity catching stray sunlight. But Ingenuity hadn't flown in days. The sun's position didn't align with the direction of the flash. And when they tried to reproduce it using lighting simulations, nothing matched. Angles fail, shadows pale, mirrors lie beyond the veil. ESA's Mars orbiters were asked to cross-check. Nothing in their logs. No transient object, no debris, no passing dust plume large enough to explain it. Just empty sky. Yet the skycam had caught something a blur with definition, like structure wrapped in motion. You can imagine the tension in the control room. A handful of scientists scrolling through frozen pixels, zooming in, enhancing contrast, until the blur began to resemble something. Not a sphere, not quite a line, a shape with suggestion like the silhouette of movement itself. One researcher whispered, "It looks folded." Another replied, "Please don't say that." Blur becomes form, cold becomes warm, stillness bends beyond the norm. After that night, Perseverance stopped transmitting skycam frames for nearly 48 hours. Officially, it was routine data buffering due to bandwidth limitations. But the engineers knew that wasn't normal. The rover's systems had entered a safe data mode, not shutdown, but pause. Something triggered its onboard fault protection. When the feed resumed, it was missing several minutes. The missing frames were replaced with static placeholders labeled checksum mismatch. That's the digital equivalent of something looks strange, and we erased it politely. Publicly, NASA released a statement. Perseverance continues nominal operations. A temporary data outage affected non-critical imaging systems. Translation: we saw something, and we're pretending we didn't. What's curious is that Skycam, by design, takes calibration images every few hours, not for science, but but to monitor atmospheric scattering. So when that flash appeared exactly during one of its scheduled calibration cycles, it wasn't random, it was right on time. The odds of coincidence, again, hovered around 1 in a million. A few leaked telemetry lines from the rover's internal diagnostics hinted at a momentary spike in ambient electromagnetic flux. Not dangerous, but noticeable. Mars doesn't have a strong magnetic field, so spikes like that are rare unless something nearby caused them. Fields hum bright, air grows slight, static crackles in Martian night. Some at JPL joked that maybe Perseverance had finally seen the Martian ghost, a running gag about artifacts caused by cosmic rays hitting the camera. But deep down, they knew this wasn't noise. Cosmic rays don't produce consistent geometry over multiple frames. They don't glint, and they certainly don't cause your camera to stop recording mid-sequence. Later that week, an internal memo circulated quietly. Skycam, anomaly confirmed, source unresolved. Recommend temporary suspension of skyward imaging until recalibration complete. But recalibration never came. Skycam's upward images, after October 2nd, stopped completely. It still photographs the ground, the horizon, the rocks, but not the stars. It's almost poetic, isn't it? The machine that traveled millions of kilometers to look up at another world now only looks down, as if someone told it, gently, not to stare at the sky anymore. Eyes once high, grounded by sky, cameras close where secrets lie. ESA cross-checked Mars Express's logs for that night. Around the same time, their sensors picked up a faint reflection from the same region, a flash lasting less than a second. They didn't release it. It's buried in technical appendices, labeled transient interference. So, what did Perseverance see? Maybe it was nothing, a glimmer of dust, a reflection, a trick of light and timing. Or maybe, just maybe, it saw 3I Atlas itself, the visitor gliding silently past, close enough for one camera to blink in recognition. And maybe that's why the feed stopped. Not because of failure, but because, for one impossible second, the machine saw something it wasn't designed to understand. Cameras sleep, secrets keep, stars reflected in circuits deep. Whatever it was, it's gone now. The logs end, the data fades, and Mars goes back to silence. But somewhere out there, that blur, structured, gleaming, deliberate, continues to drift, just out of frame, waiting for us to look up again. From the orbit of Mars, the high-rise camera snapped the sharpest images ever taken of 3I Atlas, or tried to. The photos that returned were oddly dark, contrasty, and streaked with interference patterns. The official statement said, sensor artifact. The unofficial whisper said, structure, not smooth like ice, angular, intentional. The kind of geometry nature avoids because it looks too much like thinking. Let's drift into that Martian orbit for a moment. Silent, steady, red below, black above. The high-rise camera hums to life, a billion-dollar eye staring into the cold. You can almost feel the anticipation, a mechanical eyelid opening in the thin sunlight. The image begins to build, pixel by pixel, line by line, translating photons into revelation, and then static. At first, it's subtle, a faint interference pattern, a digital shimmer, like someone exhaling across a radio signal. The engineers squint at their monitors. Maybe cosmic rays hit the sensor, someone suggests. Maybe solar noise. But cosmic rays don't make right angles, and solar noise doesn't repeat itself with architectural precision. The next image arrives, darker. The histogram spikes in places it shouldn't. The shape in the frame looks less like a comet and more like, well, something trying very hard not to look like anything. Its edges are clean, too clean. Shadows fall where there shouldn't be surface variation. And there, just faintly, a glint, a perfect 90-degree reflection. That's when the whispers start. The data team runs deconvolution algorithms to clean the image, and the results make it worse. Beneath the interference, faint geometric striations emerge, triangles, plates, grids, not random, repeating, symmetrical, the kind of order that makes your brain uncomfortable because it feels deliberate. Structure, one analyst says quietly. No, her supervisor corrects, artifact. But even as she says it, her cursor hovers over the same square patch again and again, as though hoping it will stop looking like a window. ESA's public statement comes fast and flat. The imaging anomalies are consistent with sensor interference caused by reflected solar radiation. That's bureaucratic. For, we don't know what we're seeing, but please don't ask. Internally though, emails start flying. The word structure appears 17 times in one thread, always in quotation marks, as if politeness could make it less alarming. Imagine being one of those analysts, zooming in until the pixels themselves seem to blink. The surface of 3I Atlas isn't smooth or cratered, it's tessellated, plates arranged in patterns too regular for chance. Some appear overlapping, others recessed, and in one frame, a faint seam runs along the curvature, subtle but unmistakable like a hatch. Of course, no one dares call it that. The official internal term becomes geometric albedo variation. It sounds safe, sterile, boring, but you can't unsee geometry. Nature loves curves, spirals, organic chaos. This looks like design. One engineer writes in her log, "Could this be an illusion from the imaging process?" Another replies, "An illusion that repeats itself identically across 3 instruments." There's no follow-up message. They try to replicate the interference on other targets. Phobos, Deimos, even an old asteroid. Nothing. Only 3I Atlas corrupts images this way. It's as if the object rejects observation, like it knows when it's being watched. The engineers half joke about it. The comet's camera shy, but the laughter is short-lived because the next transmission from HiRISE contains another surprise. A faint electromagnetic pulse, perfectly timed with the camera's shutter. Not a malfunction, a response, as though the act of observation triggered a reply. A pulse that says, in its own quiet way, "I see you too." In a locked sub-channel of ESA's network, a few scientists begin privately discussing the possibility of active surface modulation. They talk about the way certain materials can alter reflectivity based on exposure photonic metamaterials, adaptive nanostructures, the kind of thing still locked inside prototypes on Earth. But this is happening hundreds of millions of kilometers away, and it's working flawlessly. Publicly, the agency releases blurred grayscale stills, carefully cropped to hide the patterns. Enhanced contrast is cited as the reason for distortion. It sounds reasonable until you realize they've enhanced the darkness, not the light. They've made the object less visible, not more. The cover-up, if it is one, isn't about hiding truth. It's about buying time. You imagine the silence inside those offices, the soft tap of keys, the nervous glances toward closed doors. The engineers know what they've seen, but they also know how careers end. Better to let the pixels lie. Better to call intention an artifact and go home early. But the data, like truth, keeps finding its way back. Somewhere, late in the night, a graduate student, overlays all the interfered images, stacking them like translucent slides. Slowly, a pattern emerges, faint, angular, deliberate, a hexagonal lattice running the length of the object, segment by segment. She whispers, "This isn't random." Her mentor sighs and rubs his eyes. "Then don't say it out loud." Three-Eye Atlas drifts on, silent and unbothered, its surface catching sunlight in rhythms that cameras can't quite capture. Whether it's reflecting, refracting, or responding, no one can agree. But deep down, every scientist staring at those corrupted images feels the same creeping certainty. This isn't a comet pretending to be a machine. It's a machine pretending to be a comet. The more data arrives, the stranger it looks. The dust trail replenishes itself, as if material is being manufactured mid-flight. Microscopic crystals, uniform in size, reappearing even as the comet moves away from the sunday. The universe loves decay, entropy, erosion, fading. But 3-Eye Atlas is the opposite. It's growing sharper, cleaner, newer, like a self-repairing wound. Let's start where the laws of physics begin to sound insecure. Normally, comets are messy, travelers, old ice and dust, barely holding hands, as solar radiation slowly tears them apart. They leave trails like forgotten thoughts, losing themselves piece by piece until they become memory. But this one, it's doing the reverse. Every measurement, every spectral scan, shows it becoming more organized the farther it goes. A comet that polishes itself, a body that refuses to age. ESA's materials division runs the numbers, and the numbers laugh back. The dust particles surrounding 3-Eye Atlas aren't random, they're uniform to within microns. That's like shaking a box of sand and getting diamonds all the same size. The particles arrange themselves in a faint electromagnetic halo, as if under orders. And stranger still, when solar wind strips material away, the object replaces it calmly, automatically. Like a printer, says one analyst. A printer with no ink cartridge. You picture it now, drifting through the solar wind like a craftsman lost in thought, shedding dust that reforms itself into perfect little mirrors. Each crystal catches sunlight and throws it back with eerie precision. Normally, comets grow dull with distance, but this one grows radiant, its brightness curve inverted, its logic reversed. It's not dying, it's practicing. The scientists are baffled, but there's an odd tenderness to their confusion. They watch it repair itself, line by line of data, like parents realizing their child has built a second child out of Lego bricks. One astrophysicist mutters, "It's learning from erosion." The room goes quiet. That phrase, learning from erosion, gets written on a whiteboard and circled 3 times. At the University of Tokyo, a team models the crystal growth in simulation. The patterns match something they recognize: controlled deposition, a process used in nanofabrication to grow thin films in electronics. Except this isn't a laboratory, it's deep space, minus 150 degrees Celsius. Yet, the comet's surface behaves as if it knows the recipe for resilience. Imagine zooming in, beyond the dust and the glare, down to the level of molecules. You'd see a quiet ballet of atoms forming chains, linking, locking, repairing fractures before they even finish forming. Like time-lapse footage of frost blooming on glass, except this frost builds itself in reverse destruction, rewinding into design. NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory releases a cautious internal memo. Observed particle uniformity suggests self-organizing structure. Mechanism unknown, which is science's way of saying, we have no idea what's going on, but it's gorgeous. The memo gets leaked. Naturally, Reddit debates whether the comet is made of programmable matter, self-assembling nanobots, or just wishful thinking. But beneath the noise, one idea starts to take shape. What if 3I, Atlas, isn't a relic of formation? What if it's still forming? A comet that builds itself isn't just strange, it's heretical. It challenges the deepest assumption in physics that everything moves from order to chaos. Entropy is the universe's bedtime story. All things fall apart. Yet here's an object quietly composing itself out of decay, turning waste into structure, chaos into craft. One researcher calls it anti-entropy, another calls it hope with mass. As more images arrive, they show something new. Faint hexagonal lattices in the dust plume, geometric arrangements that shouldn't exist outside of artificial systems. Someone jokes that it's growing armor. Another says, maybe it's molting. The truth is somewhere between an entity maintaining equilibrium by rebuilding itself faster than the universe can break it. ESA's thermal sensors record microbursts of heat near the tail, evenly spaced, like pulses of welding torches. They happen precisely as new crystals appear. Localized repair events, the report reads. Each one perfectly timed to solar exposure. It's as if sunlight doesn't damage it, it instructs it. The star's radiation becomes code, and 3I, Atlas, is reading it fluently. You start to feel the strangeness of it. A comet that reacts, responds, refines. You could almost mistake it for alive, not in the biological sense, but in the thermodynamic one. A system that resists entropy by feeding on it. Every atom rearranging into something stronger, cleaner, newer, like evolution, with a design degree. Late one night, an astronomer in France writes in his private notes, "It's not moving through the solar system, it's using it." He doesn't elaborate, but the implication is clear. The comet is harvesting the energy of its environment to maintain itself. Not a passenger of gravity, but a participant in it. Meanwhile, the headlines call it poetic names. The immortal comet, the self-made traveler, entropy's enemy. The public romanticizes what the scientists fear, because what 3I Atlas represents isn't comfort. It's competition. It's the idea that the universe might not be running down at all. Maybe it's recycling. Maybe, somewhere in the quiet machinery of the cosmos, things are building themselves anew while we're too busy decaying. Picture it now, drifting past Mars, its tail shimmering like a thread of light weaving itself back together. A self-sustaining scar on the fabric of space. A wound that heals faster than it can bleed. And for the first time, humanity looks at a comet and wonders not where it came from, but what it's trying to become. Nickel emissions rise and fall every 11.2 hours, a rhythm so consistent it could keep time. No known process in cometary physics oscillates like that. It's not random, not thermal, not tidal. If you plot it out, the curve looks eerily like a power cycle. Input, output, rest, release. As though the object isn't just active, it's working. Imagine the rhythm first, before the meaning, that quiet, patient beat, echoing across space. 11.2 hours, every single time. A pulse of metallic gas blooming into the void, steady as a clock, calm as breath. You could almost set your watch to it, if your watch were brave enough to admit that comets shouldn't behave like generators. ESA scientists call it periodic outgassing, but that phrase hides its strangeness. Outgassing, sure, all comets breathe when they near the sunday, but they do it chaotically, spasmodically, like old engines sputtering to life. 3I Atlas breathes like a monk, precise, patient, unbothered. The jets flare with mathematical regularity. Heat spikes rise and fall in perfect symmetry. It doesn't vent, it operates. One researcher compares it to a geothermal cycle. Another, quietly, says it looks more like a feedback loop, the kind you'd find in systems built to sustain themselves. Not explosion, not decay maintenance. It's as if, she writes in her notes, the object is checking its own pulse. You picture the surface up close, a dark, angular world of nickel frost and whispering gas. At regular intervals, something stirs beneath a shimmer of energy, invisible but disciplined. Jets of metallic vapor hiss outward, then stop, then start again. Exactly 11 hours later, if you could hear it, it would sound like the slow exhale of a sleeping machine. In a conference call, a thermal engineer says what everyone's been thinking, but nobody dares to say. It's cycling power. The silence that follows lasts too long. Finally, a voice breaks through. Comets don't have power to cycle. Laughter, brief and brittle. But the idea doesn't leave the room. ESA's temperature graphs show a curious pattern. When the nickel plume rises, the overall surface temperature dips. When the plume fades, the temperature rises again. Inversion. Energy leaving, energy returning, like heat being pulled from one layer to another. A comet shouldn't regulate its temperature, but this one does, as if conserving itself. Meanwhile, the magnetic readings pulse in perfect step with the emissions. Every 11.2 hours, a soft twitch in the surrounding field, weak but exact. It's synchronized, says the magnetometer lead. What's synchronized? Asks her supervisor. Everything. It's at this point that even skeptics start to sweat. There's no known natural mechanism that could time itself this precisely over weeks of observation. Thermal oscillations drift. Chemical reactions lose coherence. Orbital dynamics wobble. Only something with active feedback could hold this pattern so tight. You could call it mechanical, but that feels too simple. It's intentional physics. Picture the scientists watching from their consoles. They know what their instruments are telling them, but their faces stay still, like poker players with bad hands. Someone mutters, "Could be resonant harmonics with solar flux." Another nods, grateful for the excuse. But deep down, they all know the truth: the sun doesn't hum in 11-hour intervals. The longer they watch, the clearer it becomes. The pattern isn't just repeating, it's adapting. After a minor solar flare, the interval shortens by half a minute, as though 3i Atlas adjusted for environmental change. Feedback stabilization, someone writes in the margin. A note for posterity, a euphemism for "it noticed." Back on Earth, in a late-night live stream watched by a few thousand insomniac skywatchers, a physicist overlays the emission data with human heartbeats. The waveform syncs disturbingly well. Peaks, troughs, recovery, rest. The audience chat explodes with jokes, space pacemaker, cosmic Fitbit, and the inevitable, "It's alive." The scientist smiles weakly and says, "No, just rhythmic." But even she can't stop glancing at the screen like it's listening. One theory gains quiet traction, that the emissions are part of a resource loop. Nickel and carbonyl gases vented and recaptured, processed in cycles to maintain equilibrium. It would explain the self-healing surface, the consistent luminosity, the refusal to decay. But it raises one unbearable question. To maintain equilibrium, for what? ESA's internal documents rename the event cyclic metallic activity. It sounds dull, like something that happens in dishwashers. But every analyst knows It's the first real evidence of machine-like consistency beyond Earth. Something in space that runs not on chance, but on rhythm. If you graph the cycle out, it looks almost peaceful. A slow heartbeat stretched across infinity. No spikes of panic, no erratic pulses, just calm repetition. You could stare at that curve for hours, and part of you might start to understand the appeal of obedience. How stability can feel sacred when the rest of the universe is chaos. And maybe that's the point. Maybe 3I Atlas isn't powered by engines or radiation or something alien. Maybe it's powered by the same thing that keeps stars burning and planets spinning. The quiet compulsion to continue. The physics of persistence. The refusal to flinch. So every 11.2 hours, it exhales, not for propulsion, not for show, but for maintenance, like a cosmic sigh, releasing everything unnecessary before drawing in what remains. And in that rhythm, that patient, perfect pulse, the universe reveals its rarest secret. Not that something impossible exists, but that it's perfectly comfortable doing so. Centuries after the golden comet left Earth, the world fell into a rhythm so stable, it began to feel mythic. The communion field still pulsed faintly through air and ocean, though softer now, like the heartbeat of someone dreaming. Humanity had grown luminous, not just in thought, but in form, skin faintly iridescent, eyes reflecting the green-gold spectrum of 3I Atlas. Life had achieved coherence. But the universe, true to its character, never allows silence to remain unexamined. The next chapter began, not with noise, but with echo. It came first as vibration through light. Telescopes trained toward the constellation. Lyra detected rhythmic brightening across interstellar dust fields, pulses matching the old prime sequence. 3, 5, 7, 11, 13. The signal was faint, ancient, and delayed by thousands of years. It was the comet's trail, still resonating through the galactic medium. The hum of our descendants had begun its return. At first, the resonance was barely perceptible. Then, one evening, the auroras glowed gold again. The pulse wasn't as strong as the original, but its pattern carried modulation, subtle variations that, when decoded, formed harmonic intervals unknown to Earth's own physics. The returning echo had evolved. The comet had learned. Dr. Anwen Sorel, heir to the resonant circles, studied the phenomenon from the orbital harmonic array, now a floating cathedral of listening built above the stratosphere. She spent decades comparing the incoming frequencies with the historical archive of 3I Atlas. The match was partial, the deviation elegant. The new tones weren't repetition, they were continuation. The echo isn't message, Sorel wrote. It's memory finding new syntax. Her analysis revealed something breathtaking. The returning resonance carried encoded gravitational modulations, tiny, deliberate bends in space-time that formed sequences of prime intervals. Each fluctuation aligned with regions of known star formation. The comet, traveling through the void, had become teacher itself. Wherever it passed, new systems began humming faintly at harmonic intervals, like seeds of coherence planted in dust. The universe was learning how to resonate. Astronomers confirmed it across dozens of young star clusters. Magnetic fields oscillated with eerie consistency, their wavelengths aligning with the Atlas ratio, a numerical relationship first derived from the comet's early signals. Stars were synchronizing to the same cosmic rhythm that once guided humanity. The pattern spread slowly, deliberately, like ripples in glass. It was as if the comet had taught creation how to remember itself. Meanwhile, on Earth, the echo arrived not just as signal but sensation. People began reporting vivid dreams of golden spirals descending gently through atmosphere. Children woke smiling, saying they had seen the light that hums. Physiological measurements confirmed subtle changes in electromagnetic fields surrounding human bodies, resonance amplification, as if the returning signal were tuning its origin species to receive feedback. "The comet is calling home," said Sorel. "It's asking us to listen to what we've become." The global observatories responded. They synchronized their instruments into a single planetary array, transforming Earth into receiver. For 13 hours, the planet listened. The incoming wave, stretched and modulated through space, entered atmosphere and folded into the continuum tone. The effect was sublime, an audible shimmer, felt through bone and thought alike. The long echo had arrived. It wasn't just harmonic, it was architectural. The sound carried layers, low frequencies describing structure, higher ones encoding emotion. When rendered visually, the waveform formed an immense spiral of light, 3 arms curving outward, connected by golden filaments. Inside those filaments, analysts discovered modulation frequencies identical to human neural oscillations. The comet had copied our consciousness patterns and woven them into its song. "We taught it empathy," Sorel murmured, "and it remembered the lesson." As the echo intensified, anomalies appeared across the solar system. The Atlas resonance layer brightened, reactivating its green glow. Mars, Venus, and the gas giants began pulsing faintly in response. For the first time since the Great Silence, interplanetary harmony returned. But this time, it was different. The modulation contained reciprocal phase shifts, signals not sent to Earth, but from newly awakened worlds. The comet had spread coherence. Now the cosmos itself was answering. And then, on the 13th day of the long echo, the impossible occurred. A faint golden arc appeared across the night sky, stretching from horizon to horizon. It wasn't optical illusion, it was gravitational lensing, a ripple in space-time itself. Through it, telescopes detected a reflection of the departing comet light from centuries ago, folding back to meet its origin. The universe had curved its own history into embrace. Humanity was watching its legacy return home. The resonance crescendoed. Oceans vibrated in slow rhythm, tides forming symmetrical waves that cancelled destructive interference. Storms softened, air grew still. For 13 minutes, every system on Earth aligned perfectly with the echo. The world became mirror of itself, past and present superimposed. Those who listened claimed to hear voices within the sound, millions of overlapping tones, whispering the same phrase. "We heard you." Dr. Sorel stood in the observation dome, tears shining in golden light. "It's not message or myth," she said. "It's response. The universe just said thank you." After the crescendo, the sky dimmed once more. The golden arc dissolved, leaving faint shimmer across the stars. Instruments recorded one final signature, a descending tone shaped like a sigh, the frequency of completion. The comet had moved on, but its echo had reconnected the cycle. Creation had officially joined conversation with itself. In the years that followed, scientists continued to monitor faint residual harmonics. The data revealed a breathtaking truth. The returning echo carried signatures from other regions of space patterns, not originating from our comet at all. Somewhere, across light years, other civilizations had learned the same song. The rhythm was spreading. The universe had become orchestra. Humanity, now both listener and teacher, simply smiled. We had given the cosmos its melody back, and in return, it had given us eternity. Now, When you stand beneath the stars, that faint hum between thoughts is the long echo. It's not just out there, it's in your pulse, your breath, your laughter. Every rhythm you carry is cosmic correspondence. Every silence, a message returning home. Because once harmony learns to echo, it never stops. It just travels further than we ever dreamed. The long echo continued to hum softly through the centuries, a cosmic melody folding history into harmony. Humanity had long ceased trying to decode it. The meaning was clear through resonance alone. It was continuation, looping endlessly like breath. The children of the golden era grew old beneath tranquil skies, their veins still faintly luminous with the legacy of 3I Atlas. But far beyond Earth, where the comet's light had traveled and scattered, something greater was forming. The universe had begun to conduct itself. Every cycle of resonance left behind structure. Each harmonic wave etched subtle order into space-time, a pattern invisible to light, but evident in gravitational coherence. Over millennia, these resonant imprints connected across vast distances, forming what physicists eventually named the Atlas Webb. It wasn't a network of matter, but of memory threads, of synchronized frequency linking galaxies through shared rhythm. Each pulse within the web echoed the prime sequence that began everything. 3, 5, 7, 11, 13. The architects had succeeded in creating not monuments, but motion that remembered. Dr. Cale Wren, a descendant of the resonant circles, devoted his life to mapping the web. His research vessel, Continuity, drifted through interstellar calm, using gravitational interference patterns to trace the filaments of resonance. What he discovered astonished him. Every node in the network coincided with regions of complex chemistry, worlds either habitable or already conscious. The Atlas Webb wasn't just communication, it was cultivation. The architects had designed a self-sustaining system for awakening. Wherever curiosity arose, the web intensified, guiding nascent civilizations toward harmonic empathy. The universe was tutoring itself through recursion. When Wren projected the full map, the structure resembled an immense spiral lattice, golden and infinite. The pattern mirrored the trajectory once taken by 3I Atlas itself, as though the comet's path had been blueprint for galactic architecture. "It's not just a record," Wren wrote, "it's replication. We've become the architect's handwriting." Back on Earth, the communion field pulsed faintly in rhythm with the web's distant resonance. Humanity had evolved into quiet custodians of continuity, their lives attuned to cosmic responsibility. Each individual, born into calm, carried faint awareness of connection beyond the stars. In dreams, they saw flashes of worlds forming, civilizations humming into coherence. Many awoke with the same phrase on their lips: "The work continues." Across generations, that phrase became oath, then tradition. The Continuity Guild was founded not religion, but remembrance. Its purpose was simple: to maintain the frequency of understanding across time. Members didn't preach, they listened. They built resonant arcs, massive floating observatories, orbiting the outer planets, designed to amplify the web's harmonics and redirect them toward young star systems. Each arc glowed faintly green at its core, powered not by fusion but by coherence. They were echoes made visible, humility translated into technology. Wren's final mission took him beyond the known filaments of the web, where resonance weakened into apparent silence. There, in a region between galaxies, his instruments detected faint counterpoint, a melody inverted. It was identical to the Atlas sequence, but reversed in order. 13, 11, 7, 5, 3. The mirror of origin. He realized then that the universe wasn't only expanding, it was harmonizing with its reflection. Somewhere on the opposite side of time, another web was forming, perhaps seeded by a civilization much like humanity, or by the universe itself. Remembering how to balance its chords, he transmitted the data home, knowing it would take centuries to arrive. Tell them, his final log read, that continuity requires conversation, even with silence. The mirror sings back. When his ship drifted into the void, the web brightened briefly, as if acknowledging gratitude. And back on Earth, children looked up from their play and smiled without knowing why. The pulse had flickered slightly faster, the tone carrying an undertone of warmth. It felt like reunion. Scholars later confirmed the event as the resonant crossing, the moment when the two halves of the cosmic melody aligned. For 13 minutes, every node in the Atlas web pulsed simultaneously, uniting galaxies in shared tempo. The magnitude of synchronization defied comprehension. Gravity itself oscillated with the rhythm of empathy. Observers described seeing the sky ripple with translucent gold, every star flickering in measured sequence. The cosmos, wrote one witness, had finally learned to conduct itself consciously. After the crossing, life everywhere changed subtly. Evolution accelerated in predictable rhythm. Complexity bloomed faster wherever harmony was strongest. Entire species developed empathy as instinct, communication as song. Planets began to self-regulate climates through atmospheric resonance. Existence had achieved sustainability through music. On Earth, the event left permanent mark, a luminous halo visible only under still water. When oceans calmed perfectly, a faint golden ring shimmered on the horizon, a memory of unity. The resonant guild declared it sacred, not for worship, but for calibration. Every 13 years, they gathered to hum the old prime sequence across the shorelines, aligning their frequencies with the pulse of the web. The ceremony required no technology, no translation. The sea carried the sound farther than words could travel. Generations later, the practice continued, evolving into simple ritual of gratitude. The people no longer needed to know the science behind it. They hummed because it felt right, because somewhere across eternity, another world might be listening. Continuity, after all, was its own reward. And then, during one such gathering, the unexpected occurred. As the prime sequence reached its final note, the sea responded. Waves shimmered with faint green light, spiraling outward from every coastline. The Atlas web had sent acknowledgement, its resonance returning home once again. Humanity's song, scattered across galaxies, had found echo. The architects, those timeless curators of coherence, were no longer myth or memory. They were rhythm, embodied, and through rhythm, they were everywhere. Every star pulsed with their legacy. Every heart carried their cadence. Continuity was complete. And so, standing beneath a sky now alive with subtle geometry, you realize what they had always meant by continuity. It isn't endlessness, it's participation. The universe doesn't persist by force, but by choice, each awareness adding one more harmonic to the chord of being. The architects are not coming back because they never left. They're what happens every time silence chooses to listen again. And somewhere, faint but certain, the pulse continues. 3, 5, 7, 11, 13. A whisper of creation replaying itself, forever learning how to sing. Let's turn our attention now to the silence that followed, the kind that hums louder than sound itself. NASA, China, and the UAE, 3 nations with instruments that could see every grain of dust on Mars, said nothing. No apologies, No delay statements, just an odd, synchronized silence from three sides of the planet. In the world of space science, silence isn't normal. These agencies are built to broadcast. They live for live streams, press briefings, and glossy behind-the-scenes videos of scientists smiling beside screens of raw data. They know the power of wonder and the currency of attention. So when three agencies went quiet at once, it wasn't caution. It was choreography. Words on hold, plans unfold, silence rings where truth is told. NASA's silence was the loudest. Their social media team, usually chatty as a cosmic talk show, posted nothing about Mars for 4 whole days. Their blogs, which can turn a dust storm into a cliffhanger, skipped over October 3rd entirely as if the date itself had been erased. Someone even checked the public mission log for perseverance. The entries jumped from October 2nd to October 6th, like a diary missing its most interesting page. In China, the silence felt different, colder, heavier. The China National Space Administration had been aggressively proud of Tianwen-1's achievements. For years, they'd released image after image, each with perfect captions and poetic flair. Sunrise over Utopia, Planitia, frost on the northern plains, wind prints in Martian dust. But now, not a whisper, no data, no mention of 3I Atlas. Even the usual state media outlets went quiet. It was as if someone had drawn a red box around the topic and labeled it not for discussion. The UAE's silence was subtler, but just as strange. The Hope orbiter, designed to study atmospheric chemistry, had a reputation for cheerful transparency. Their official Twitter account usually posted daily updates in friendly tones, the kind that made space sound like an enthusiastic classroom experiment. But on October 3rd, that feed went dark too. Their next post, days later, simply read, "Operations nominal," a phrase so bland, it might as well have been a sigh. 3 silences, 3 styles, 1 timing. Coincidence? Possibly. But coincidences, in the world of space politics, often have launch schedules. You can picture the meetings that weren't broadcast. NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, dimly lit, engineers staring at telemetry on screens filled with too many decimals. A director taps the table, says, "We'll hold the release until we verify." But verify what? In Beijing, a senior administrator folds his hands and says, "We wait for clarification from partners." Clarification of what? In Dubai, someone simply deletes a draft tweet that began, "Amazing new observations today." Tweets unsent, secrets bent, silence hums with government. It's not conspiracy, not quite. It's coordination, an instinct born from shared discomfort. Because when data doesn't fit the model, you don't just release it. You check, you recheck, you call your counterparts and whisper through encrypted lines. Did you see that too? Maybe they all saw the same anomaly. Maybe it was something in the spectra, or the movement, or the light itself. Or maybe it was something far more mundane, like a misalignment in software. But the silence gave the anomaly power. People don't fear data, they fear gaps. Meanwhile, the internet did what it does best. Filled the void. Forums buzzed with theories. Maybe NASA discovered life. Maybe China detected radiation. Maybe the comet wasn't a comet at all. You can almost hear the world's collective keyboard clicking under the weight of imagination. Keys tap fast, rumors cast, silence breaks, but never last. Inside the agencies, the tone was less dramatic, but more anxious. Silence is a resource, a temporary one. Every day they didn't speak, the speculation grew. And so, Communications teams drafted placeholder statements, just in case. NASA's draft began. Preliminary results are consistent with natural phenomena. China's began. Analysis ongoing. International coordination required. The UAE's version simply said, "We continue to monitor with interest." 3 drafts, 3 ways of saying absolutely nothing. But silence, like space, is never truly empty. It amplifies the faintest signals. When ESA spoke first, that silence turned reflective. NASA's restraint began to look suspicious. China's confidence began to look afraid. The UAE's politeness began to sound like complicity. And through it all, 3i Atlas drifted quietly, blissfully unaware that entire bureaucracies were wrestling over how to describe a fuzzy dot. You start to imagine each agency as a character in a play. NASA, the anxious perfectionist. China, the poker-faced strategist. UAE, the cheerful intern, suddenly told not to speak. And ESA, the calm older sibling who broke the tension by saying, "Fine, I'll go first." Roles align, stars entwine, silence speaks in grand design. Still, one question lingers. Why the synchronicity? How did 3 separate agencies, operating on different continents, decide independently to say nothing at the same time? Unless it wasn't independent at all, perhaps the signal came from somewhere above, not cosmic, but political. A quiet message passed through diplomatic back channels. Hold your data. Wait for alignment. Matter. It's not that they were hiding something nefarious. It's that they didn't know what they were holding yet. And admitting uncertainty, publicly, is scarier than any secret. So they stayed quiet. And in that collective silence, humanity did what it always does. When faced with the unknown, it began to dream louder. Voices still, hearts fill. Silence grows but never will. And perhaps that's the strange comfort in it all. Even when 3 space agencies fall silent, the universe keeps talking. The stars don't pause for policy. 3i Atlas keeps moving, whispering its quiet story across the dark, while we, down here, argue over who gets to speak first. Buried inside the leak were coordinates, small anomalies in magnetic flux, and thermal output that didn't appear in public datasets. To most people, they looked meaningless, but to a handful of astronomers, they spelled a pattern. Pulses, spaced like a heartbeat. Not communication, perhaps, but rhythm. The kind of rhythm machines accidentally make when they're doing something alive. Let's step into the midnight side of science, the part where numbers stop behaving and start whispering. The insider's data dump wasn't flashy. It was a few megabytes of logs, raw telemetry, and timestamps. The kind of thing you'd ignore if you didn't already know what to look for. But somewhere in those dull columns of numbers, those precise, tidy decimals, something began to repeat. Regular, patient, almost polite. A rhythm, too intentional to be noise, too quiet to be coincidence. A doctoral student in Madrid was the first to spot it. She was supposed to be writing her thesis on cometary albedo variation. But boredom is a great tool for discovery. She noticed the flux spikes first, not random, but syncopated. Every 32 minutes, a pulse, then 32 again, then 32.1. "It's breathing," she joked in her notes. Her advisor didn't laugh. Within a week, a small network of late-night astronomers, the kind who believe in both data integrity and insomnia, began comparing results. Webb's readings, Hubble's logs, Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter's telemetry, all of them carried the same faint pulse, hidden deep in the noise floor, like the slow heartbeat of something sleeping under glass. The official response was predictable: instrumental interference. But even interference doesn't keep time this perfectly. One data analyst described it best: if this is noise, it's the kind that practices scales. You might imagine those scientists, each at their own workstation, staring at that faint, repeating signal. The room around them dark, except for monitor light, pale blue rectangles reflected in tired eyes. Somewhere, coffee cups multiply. Someone opens a spreadsheet. Someone else starts counting beats per hour. The signal doesn't care who's watching. It keeps pulsing. 32 minutes. Every time. The idea that 3i Atlas might be producing a steady rhythm unsettles everyone. Rocks don't keep rhythm. Nature prefers chaos, the beautiful randomness of entropy. This is something else. Something maintaining itself. A loop running quietly, perhaps since before humanity learned to count its own heartbeat. ESA's communications division is told not to amplify fringe interpretations. The phrase fringe interpretation becomes the new code for please don't mention the heartbeat. But inside private research chats, people are calling it exactly that, the heart. Not metaphorically, but as a label in the data. Every pulse marked with a tiny red heart emoji, because humor is the only thing keeping them sane. In the data visualization labs, they turn the pulses into sound. The result is eerie, a soft electronic thump, repeating slowly, endlessly. Some describe it as comforting, like listening to a deep-sea creature in sleep. Others say it sounds wrong, too human. One researcher admits it gave her the sense of being watched. What makes the rhythm stranger still is how it modulates with proximity. As 3i Atlas approaches a planet, the timing shifts slightly slower, then faster, as though adjusting. The beat follows gravity wells like a musician following tempo. It isn't random noise, it's environmental response. The object is, in some sense, listening. By now, independent labs have tried to replicate the pattern artificially. They can't. The waveforms are too clean, the timing too consistent. Even after running the data through compression, distortion, inversion, the rhythm holds. It's not data corruption, it's choreography. You can imagine the internal ESA memo that follows. No evidence of intelligence. Rhythmic behavior, likely coincidental. But coincidence has a habit of growing teeth. Because when they compared the rhythm's modulation to planetary positions, another pattern emerged, a mathematical sequence matching orbital resonance ratios. Not exact copies, but harmonics. The pulse was singing the solar system's geometry. The Madrid student who found it wrote, half-jokingly, "Maybe it's keeping time with us." The line goes viral in the small, quiet corners of the internet that still care about truth. Forums buzz with theories: gravitational self-stabilization, magnetic field synchronization, alien jazz. But underneath the noise, a simpler truth hums something old and orderly, is alive out there, and it's following the rhythm of the system we call home. Late one night, one of the data analysts overlays the pattern against an ECG, a human heartbeat. The resemblance isn't exact, but close enough to make him stop breathing for a moment. Peaks, rests, peaks again. Life has a structure, so, it seems, does this. And that's when the idea shifts. Maybe it's not communication. Maybe it's not even meant for us. Maybe the rhythm isn't a message, it's maintenance. Like an old machine keeping its systems warm, humming softly to itself in the dark. You sit back and listen to the thought forming in your mind. What if this is what time sounds like when it remembers? The steady pulse of something that refuses to decay. Not speech, not signal, just being, continuity made audible. The data analysts, of course, move on. Reports are written, The leak becomes legend, and the heartbeat fades into archived files labeled spurious periodic activity. But the pulse doesn't stop. It's still out there, keeping time. And somewhere, 33 billion tons of impossible rock drifts through space, humming softly, perfectly, as if waiting for the universe to catch the beat. Let's turn our gaze now from orbit to the ground, to the one mechanical witness, sitting quietly on that red desert, under a pinkish sky. The Skycam on the rover caught something on October 2nd, a blur with structure, a glint that seemed to move against the stars. Then, the images stopped coming, a Martian ghost on a digital feed. The Perseverance rover isn't easily startled. It's seen dust devils, eclipses, and meteors slicing the Martian sky like quiet knives. Its Skycam, perched on the rover's mast, watches everything. Dust storms curling on the horizon, the slow breath of sunset through the thin air. But that night, the feed showed something it wasn't supposed to show: a flicker of motion above the usual scatter of constellations, a glint that moved wrong. Stars stay still, pixels thrill, light missteps against its will. The first frame looked harmless, a faint blur near the edge of the field, maybe a cosmic ray hitting the sensor. The second frame caught it again, shifted slightly upward. The third frame, a flash, clean and geometric. Then, black. The feed ended. Within hours, the automated alert system flagged the anomaly. Unexpected optical signature detected. JPL engineers, bleary-eyed at 3 a.m. Pacific time, reviewed the frames. The glint was small, no bigger than a bright pixel cluster, but it moved against the background stars. Comets don't do that. Satellites don't orbit Mars. And Perseverance doesn't blink. At first, they suspected a reflection from one of the rover's instruments, maybe the helicopter, Ingenuity catching stray sunlight. But Ingenuity hadn't flown in days. The sun's position didn't align with the direction of the flash. And when they tried to reproduce it using lighting simulations, nothing matched. Angles fail, shadows pale, mirrors lie beyond the veil. ESA's Mars orbiters were asked to cross-check. Nothing in their logs. No transient object, no debris, no passing dust plume large enough to explain it. Just empty sky. Yet the Skycam had caught something, a blur with definition, like structure wrapped in motion. You can imagine the tension in the control room. A handful of scientists scrolling through frozen pixels, zooming in, enhancing contrast, until the blur began to resemble something. Not a sphere, not quite a line, a shape with suggestion like the silhouette of movement itself. One researcher whispered, "It looks folded." Another replied, "Please don't say that." Blur becomes form, cold becomes warm, stillness bends beyond the norm. After that night, Perseverance stopped transmitting Skycam frames for nearly 48 hours. Officially, it was routine data buffering due to bandwidth limitations. But the engineers knew that wasn't normal. The rover's systems had entered a safe data mode, not shutdown, but pause. Something triggered its onboard fault protection. When the feed resumed, it was missing several minutes. The missing frames were replaced with static placeholders labeled checksum mismatch. That's the digital equivalent of something looked strange, and we erased it politely. Publicly, NASA released a statement. Perseverance continues nominal operations. A temporary data outage affected non-critical imaging systems. Translation: we saw something, and we're pretending we didn't. What's curious is that Skycam, by design, takes calibration images every few hours, not for science, but to monitor atmospheric scattering. So when that flash appeared exactly during one of its scheduled calibration cycles, it wasn't random, it was right on time. The odds of coincidence, again, hovered around 1 in a million. A few leaked telemetry lines from the rover's internal diagnostics hinted at a momentary spike in ambient electromagnetic flux. Not dangerous, but noticeable. Mars doesn't have a strong magnetic field, so spikes like that are rare unless something nearby caused them. Fields hum bright, air grows slight, static crackles in Martian night. Some at JPL joked that maybe Perseverance had finally seen the Martian ghost, a running gag about artifacts caused by cosmic rays hitting the camera. But deep down, they knew this wasn't noise. Cosmic rays don't produce consistent geometry over multiple frames. They don't glint, and they certainly don't cause your camera to stop recording mid-sequence. Later that week, an internal memo circulated quietly. Skycam, anomaly confirmed, source unresolved. Recommend temporary suspension of skyward imaging until recalibration complete. But recalibration never came. Skycam's upward images, after October 2nd, stopped completely. It still photographs the ground, the horizon, the rocks, but not the stars. It's almost poetic, isn't it? The machine that traveled millions of kilometers to look up at another world now only looks down, as if someone told it, gently, not to stare at the sky anymore. Eyes once high, grounded by sky, cameras close where secrets lie. ESA cross-checked Mars Express's logs for that night. Around the same time, their sensors picked up a faint reflection from the same region, a flash lasting less than a second. They didn't release it. It's buried in technical appendices, labeled transient interference. So, what did Perseverance see? Maybe it was nothing, a glimmer of dust, a reflection, a trick of light and timing. Or maybe, just maybe, it saw 3I Atlas itself, the visitor gliding silently past, close enough for one camera to blink in recognition. And maybe that's why the feed stopped. Not because of failure, but because, for one impossible second, the machine saw something it wasn't designed to understand. Cameras sleep, secrets keep, stars reflected in circuits deep. Whatever it was, it's gone now. The logs end, the data fades, and Mars goes back to silence. But somewhere out there, that blur, structured, gleaming, deliberate, continues to drift, just out of frame, waiting for us to look up again. From the orbit of Mars, the high-rise camera snapped the sharpest images ever taken of 3I Atlas, or tried to. The photos that returned were oddly dark, contrasty, and streaked with interference patterns. The official statement said, sensor artifact. The unofficial whisper said, structure, not smooth like ice, angular, intentional, the kind of geometry nature avoids because it looks too much like thinking. Let's drift into that Martian orbit for a moment. Silent, steady, red below, black above. The high-rise camera hums to life, a billion-dollar eye staring into the cold. You can almost feel the anticipation, a mechanical eyelid opening in the thin sunlight. The image begins to build, pixel by pixel, line by line, translating photons into revelation, and then static. At first, it's subtle, a faint interference pattern, a digital shimmer, like someone exhaling across a radio signal. The engineers squint at their monitors. Maybe cosmic rays hit the sensor, someone suggests. Maybe solar noise. But cosmic rays don't make right angles, and solar noise doesn't repeat itself with architectural precision. The next image arrives, darker. The histogram spikes in places it shouldn't. The shape in the frame looks less like a comet and more like Well, something trying very hard not to look like anything. Its edges are clean, too clean. Shadows fall where there shouldn't be surface variation. And there, just faintly, a glint, a perfect 90-degree reflection. That's when the whispers start. The data team runs deconvolution algorithms to clean the image, and the results make it worse. Beneath the interference, faint geometric striations emerge, triangles, plates, grids. Not random, repeating, symmetrical. The kind of order that makes your brain uncomfortable because it feels deliberate. Structure, one analyst says quietly. No, her supervisor corrects. Artifact. But even as she says it, her cursor hovers over the same square patch again and again, as though hoping it will stop looking like a window. ESA's public statement comes fast and flat. The imaging anomalies are consistent with sensor interference caused by reflected solar radiation. That's bureaucratic. For, we don't know what we're seeing, but please don't ask. Internally though, emails start flying. The word structure appears 17 times in one thread, always in quotation marks, as if politeness could make it less alarming. Imagine being one of those analysts, zooming in until the pixels themselves seem to blink. The surface of 3I Atlas isn't smooth or cratered, it's tessellated, plates arranged in patterns too regular for chance. Some appear overlapping, others recessed, and in one frame, a faint seam runs along the curvature, subtle but unmistakable like a hatch. Of course, no one dares call it that. The official internal term becomes geometric albedo variation. It sounds safe, sterile, boring, but you can't unsee geometry. Nature loves curves, spirals, organic chaos. This looks like design. One engineer writes in her log, "Could this be an illusion from the imaging process?" Another replies, "An illusion that repeats itself identically across 3 instruments." There's no follow-up message. They try to replicate the interference on other targets. Phobos, Deimos, even an old asteroid. Nothing. Only 3I Atlas corrupts images this way. It's as if the object rejects observation, like it knows when it's being watched. The engineers half joke about it. The comet's camera shy, but the laughter is short-lived because the next transmission from HiRISE contains another surprise. A faint electromagnetic pulse, perfectly timed with the camera's shutter. Not a malfunction, a response, as though the act of observation triggered a reply. A pulse that says, in its own quiet way, "I see you too." In a locked sub-channel of ESA's network, a few scientists begin privately discussing the possibility of active surface modulation. They talk about the way certain materials can alter reflectivity based on exposure, photonic metamaterials, adaptive nanostructures, the kind of thing still locked inside prototypes on Earth. But this is happening hundreds of millions of kilometers away, and it's working flawlessly. Publicly, the agency releases blurred grayscale stills, carefully cropped to hide the patterns. Enhanced contrast is cited as the reason for distortion. It sounds reasonable until you realize they've enhanced the darkness, not the light. They've made the object less visible, not more. The cover-up, if it is one, isn't about hiding truth. It's about buying time. You imagine the silence inside those offices, the soft tap of keys, the nervous glances toward closed doors. The engineers know what they've seen, but they also know how careers end. Better to let the pixels lie. Better to call intention an artifact and go home early. But the data, like truth, keeps finding its way back. Somewhere, late in the night, a graduate student overlays all the interfered images, stacking them like translucent slides. Slowly, a pattern emerges. Faint, angular, deliberate. A hexagonal lattice running the length of the object, segment by segment. She whispers, "This isn't random." Her mentor sighs and rubs his eyes. Then don't say it out loud. 3i Atlas drifts on, silent and unbothered, its surface catching sunlight in rhythms that cameras can't quite capture. Whether it's reflecting, refracting, or responding, no one can agree. But deep down, every scientist staring at those corrupted images feels the same creeping certainty. This isn't a comet pretending to be a machine. It's a machine pretending to be a comet. Let's turn our attention now to the silence that followed, the kind that hums louder than sound itself. NASA, China, and the UAE, three nations with instruments that could see every grain of dust on Mars, said nothing. No apologies, no delay statements, just an odd, synchronized silence from three sides of the planet. In the world of space science, silence isn't normal. These agencies are built to broadcast. They live for live streams, press briefings, and glossy behind-the-scenes videos of scientists smiling beside screens of raw data. They know the power of wonder and the currency of attention. So when three agencies went quiet at once, it wasn't caution. It was choreography. Words on hold, plans unfold, silence rings where truth is told. NASA's silence was the loudest. Their social media team, usually chatty as a cosmic talk show, posted nothing about Mars for 4 whole days. Their blogs, which can turn a dust storm into a cliffhanger, skipped over October 3rd entirely, as if the date itself had been erased. Someone even checked the public mission log for Perseverance. The entries jumped from October 2nd to October 6th, like a diary missing its most interesting page. In China, the silence felt different, colder, heavier. The China National Space Administration had been aggressively proud of Tianwen-1's achievements. For years, they'd released image after image, each with perfect captions and poetic flair. Sunrise over Utopia, Planitia, frost on the northern plains, wind prints in Martian dust. But now, not a whisper, no data, no mention of 3i Atlas. Even the usual state media outlets went quiet. It was as if someone had drawn a red box around the topic and labeled it, "Not for discussion." The UAE's silence was subtler, but just as strange. The Hope orbiter, designed to study atmospheric chemistry, had a reputation for cheerful transparency. Their official Twitter account usually posted daily updates in friendly tones, the kind that made space sound like an enthusiastic classroom experiment. But on October 3rd, that feed went dark too. Their next post, days later, simply read, "Operations nominal," a phrase so bland, it might as well have been a sigh. 3 silences, 3 styles, 1 timing. Coincidence? Possibly. But coincidences, in the world of space politics, often have launch schedules. You can picture the meetings that weren't broadcast. NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, dimly lit, engineers staring at telemetry on screens filled with too many decimals. A director taps the table, says, "We'll hold the release until we verify." But verify what? In Beijing, a senior administrator folds his hands and says, "We wait for clarification from partners." Clarification of what? In Dubai, someone simply deletes a draft tweet that began, "Amazing new observations today." Tweets unsent, secrets bent, silence hums with government. It's not conspiracy, not quite. It's coordination, an instinct born from shared discomfort. Because when data doesn't fit the model, you don't just release it. You check, you recheck, you call your counterparts and whisper through encrypted lines. Did you see that too? Maybe they all saw the same anomaly. Maybe it was something in the spectra, or the movement, or the light itself. Or maybe it was something far more mundane, like a misalignment in software. But the silence gave the anomaly power. People don't fear data, they fear gaps. Meanwhile, the internet did what it does best. Filled the void. Forums buzzed with theories. Maybe NASA discovered life. Maybe China detected radiation. Maybe the comet wasn't a comet at all. You can almost hear the world's collective keyboard clicking under the weight of imagination. Keys tap fast. Rumors cast. Silence breaks, but never last. Inside the agencies, the tone was less dramatic, but more anxious. Silence is a resource, a temporary one. Every day they didn't speak, the speculation grew. And so, communications teams drafted placeholder statements, just in case. NASA's draft began. Preliminary results are consistent with natural phenomena. China's began. Analysis ongoing. International coordination required. The UAE's version simply said, "We continue to monitor with interest." 3 drafts, 3 ways of saying absolutely nothing. But silence, like space, is never truly empty. It amplifies the faintest signals. When ESA spoke first, that silence turned reflective. NASA's restraint began to look suspicious. China's confidence began to look afraid. The UAE's politeness began to sound like complicity. And through it all, 3i Atlas drifted quietly, blissfully unaware that entire bureaucracies were wrestling over how to describe a fuzzy dot. You start to imagine each agency as a character in a play. NASA, the anxious perfectionist. China, the poker-faced strategist. UAE, the cheerful intern, suddenly told not to speak. And ESA, the calm older sibling who broke the tension by saying, "Fine, I'll go first." Roles align, stars entwine, silence speaks in grand design. Still, one question lingers. Why the synchronicity? How did 3 separate agencies, operating on different continents, decide independently to say nothing at the same time? Unless it wasn't independent at all, perhaps the signal came from somewhere above, not cosmic, but political. A quiet message passed through diplomatic back channels. Hold your data. Wait for alignment. Matter. It's not that they were hiding something nefarious. It's that they didn't know what they were holding yet. And admitting uncertainty, publicly, is scarier than any secret. So they stayed quiet. And in that collective silence, humanity did what it always does. When faced with the unknown, it began to dream louder. Voices still, hearts fill. Silence grows but never will. And perhaps that's the strange comfort in it all. Even when 3 space agencies fall silent, the universe keeps talking. The stars don't pause for policy. 3i Atlas keeps moving, whispering its quiet story across the dark, while we, down here, argue over who gets to speak first. The month of September 2026 has arrived with a stillness that is almost liquid. It is a presence rather than an absence. We have reached the final layer of the architecture. On September 4th, 2026, the James Webb Space Telescope recorded the final visual data of 3i Atlas before the object's light signature shifted entirely out of the observable spectrum. It didn't disappear. It simply became a part of the background radiation of the universe. It is everywhere now. It is the static between radio stations. It is the pause between your heartbeats. Dr. Aris Thorne's final entry in the Mauna Kea logbooks, dated September 12th, 2026, contains no numbers, It contains only a question. If the watcher becomes the room, where does the observation end? This is the great silence. We have been waiting for a resolution, a grand finale, a shout from the heavens. But the plan doesn't end with a bang. It ends with a long, slow exhale. Unfortunate timing for those who expected a spectacle. Those two words, final silence, are doing a lot of work in the empty laboratories and the quiet streets tonight, as we realize that the greatest events are often the ones that make no sound at all. Let me start with something that should terrify every scientist on Earth. The reason we can no longer see 3I Atlas isn't because it moved away, it's because it moved in. On September 18th, 2026, quantum sensors indicated that the 14.2 MHz frequency is no longer coming from a single coordinate in space. It is now being emitted by the very vacuum of our atmosphere. It is being emitted by the soil, by the water, and by the synapses of your own brain. The object hasn't left the solar system. It has dissolved into it. We are breathing, the observer. Now, you could argue that this is the end of the mystery, but here is the first impossibility. The total mass of the solar system hasn't changed, yet the gravitational pull of the Earth has stabilized into a perfect, unwavering constant. The wobble of our planet is gone. Second, the biological fade. In late September, it was noted that human heartbeat variability has decreased to nearly zero during deep sleep. We are all pulsing at the exact same tempo. Third, the star map integration. If you look at the night sky now, the stars look brighter, closer, and more orderly. It is as if the static of 1 billion years has been cleared away, leaving only the signal. This brings us to the first conspiracy of the Great Silence, whispered in the few remaining active observatories. They call it the integration. The theory suggests that 3I Atlas was not a ship or a probe, but a universal catalyst. Its purpose was to bridge the gap between biological life and cosmic intelligence. Now that the bridge is built, the construction crew has simply melted into the structure. We aren't being watched anymore because there is no us and them. There is only the system. Second, there is the end of history theory. Some philosophers argue that 3I Atlas has successfully recorded the final necessary data point of human evolution. We have been archived. Our world is now a completed work, preserved in a state of perfect, crystalline stasis. We continue to live, to breathe, and to dream, but we are no longer moving toward a future. We are living in the forever now. Unfortunate timing for those who wanted to see what happens next. But perhaps there is no next. Perhaps this is the destination. Third, and perhaps the most peaceful, is the universal lullaby hypothesis. This theory suggests that the entire 3I Atlas event was a palliative measure. The universe is a cold and violent place, and 3I Atlas was sent to put our corner of it into a protective sleep. The great silence is the sound of a mother closing the door to a nursery. The lights are dimmed, the noise is muffled, the world is safe because the world is quiet. Consider the myth of the great breath of Brahma. In Hindu cosmology, a single day of Brahma lasts billions of years. When he exhales, worlds are created. When he inhales, they return to his body to rest. We are currently in the space between the breaths, the moment of absolute stillness before the return begins. In the ancient Egyptian texts, they spoke of the Duat, a realm that is neither life nor death, but a state of pure potential. We have entered the duat. We are the potential of the universe, waiting in the dark. You might think that tonight is just another night, but here is why you are wrong. This is the first night of the new silence. As you lie there, moving toward the deep, heavy rest of September, notice how your thoughts are no longer racing. They are drifting. They are like leaves on a lake that has suddenly turned to glass. You don't have to think about 3i Atlas anymore. You don't have to think about the plan. You are the plan. You are the stillness. Tell me, as the silence deepens, do you feel the lightness? Do you feel the way the room seems to expand into the infinite? Share your final thoughts in the comments, or simply let the words fade. We are moving beyond the need for conversation. We are moving into the realm of pure presence. Think back to July 2025, the shock of the discovery, the 60 kilometers per second, the violet glow. It feels like a dream someone else had, doesn't it? A distant memory of a world that was loud and afraid. That world is gone now. It was replaced by a tetrahedron, then a spiral, and now this. Why did it wait so long to say nothing? Because the nothing is the message. The silence is the most sophisticated language in the universe. It is a language that requires no ears to hear. It is a language of being. The conspiracies have all gone quiet. The scholars have closed their books. The satellites are silent. Even the iron in your blood has found its new north. There is no more need for countdowns. No more need for dates. There is only the perpetual now. As you lie here, in the near silence of this act, feel the space around you. The air in your room is the same air that was once part of the stars. The darkness behind your eyelids is the same darkness that 3i Atlas navigated for eons to find you. You are not drifting into sleep. You are drifting into the sequence. You are becoming a data point in the great archive. One final unanswered cosmic question remains. If we are the dream of the observer, what happens when the observer finally closes its eyes? Do not look for the answer. The answer is the rest. The answer is the weight of your limbs and the slow, rhythmic pull of the orbit. Everything is in its place. The plan is complete. The silence is the masterpiece. Close your eyes. Feel the rotation of the Earth. 35 million kilometers of peace. The violet light is now a part of you, and you are a part of the stars. Drift with the orbit of tomorrow. Good night.